I got her.
I'm going to spell it all on the page.
Mr. Anderson.
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Gifford.
Here.
Mr. Jessen. Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. LaSalle.
Here.
Mr. McEnroe.
Here.
Mr. Mahoney is excused. Mr. Meyer.
Here. Okay, next is approval of minutes of January 21st. Everybody get a chance to look it over? Any questions?
I have a
Corrections?
correction.
Go ahead.
Item 5A, the appointments were made by the city commission. Actually, they were made by the mayor.
Oh, I had that underlined, Bob.
Sorry to steal your thunder.
You thunder stealer.
Okay. Any other corrections?
Yes, on item 6, communications, under Paul Edgar, Oregon City, he had come from the Chiefs Advisory Committee, not the Chief of Police's Council. Chiefs is plural. Chiefs Advisory Committee because it's the fire chief as well as the police chief. And that's the name of the organization.
Okay.
And I wasn't quite sure, above that on the same page, the access to Dutch Brothers, was that just informational only, John? I mean, we didn't take any action on that.
No.
It says what your favorites were, it didn't talk about what we thought was good. That whole second paragraph.
Where are you at? 6A? 6?
No,
Page
that is
5.
5E.
E.
5E.
We had the discussion, but we didn't come up with anything.
You sure? Didn't we
Yeah,
zero in on
argued
one
a
or
little
two?
bit.
We didn't come up with anything. We kind of,
Didn't make a motion.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
How could I forget that?
Committee looked at available options and
I
talked
need-
about modifications of some.
I need to make the minutes simple, stupider.
No, I like them. I like them. That's not stupid. I think that's smart. I think that's smart. I just didn't know, we really didn't do anything.
No, my intent there was to share with you the report, share with you the various options, several of which were on-site options. So we've still got to connect with that property owner and kind of get their input. So, yeah, we weren't necessarily looking for a recommendation.
Well, there's the last sentence on this is, he, meaning you, also needed to present the findings to the property owner. Which findings were those?
Well, I think all the different alternatives.
options.
So, yeah, all the options that are out there.
Okay, that's fine. And then, let's see, on the last page, page 6 of 6 at the top, somewhat unique, of course, is the wrong word. And then 7 Molalla Avenue between Gaffney Lane and Claremont Way, that was Mr. Gifford rather than Mr. Johnson inquired about that possible barrier on Molalla. All rise. Hi, Jim.
I'm not
Yeah.
following. Where are you at again, William?
On the top of page 6 of 6.
Then I believe that I would have to say that Mr. Johnson, didn't Mr. Johnson have concerns about it?
No,
And-
I don't believe so. I think that his
Oh, I'm
his
sorry.
concern was the turnout from Safeway on
Yeah.
Colton, right?
yeah,
No,
Yeah.
that was Mr. LaSalle's.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh. Really?
But that thing between northbound Molalla getting into Joanne's and Burgerville, that's been a bug in my bee in my bonnet, a bug in my bee bonnet,
Okay.
a bee in my bug bonnet.
Apologies.
I remember it being Steve bringing that up, but I don't know that it really matters.
And the other one was Mr. McEnroe, or not Mr. Mahoney, maybe.
No, it was,
Who was-
Henry brought up the issue in front of Safeway.
Yeah, he
and
had the
Steve
pictures.
brought up the issue in front of Burgerville, and we had some discussion, but I wasn't sure. I don't.
Right.
We just agreed to put it
Done.
on the
I'll
agenda
change
for
it.
tonight.
Yeah.
With those modifications, I'd move the minutes be approved as written.
Do I hear a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, move right on. Agenda analysis. Anything to say? I think we're going to move ahead to put TriMet first.
Right, so the agenda reads correctly. We're going to, with one exception, and that is we had the citizen comment. We'd like to get TriMet before you so that within time for them to get to Milwaukee by 7. So we're
Okay.
going to ask that we push the citizen comment in between, right after the TriMet presentation. So TriMet is here, Claudia Steinberg and Carrie Ayers Palanek. Okay. Are both here from TriMet. As you know, we've been talking a fair amount about TriMet and some of their service in Oregon City. This is specific to the Portland-Milwaukee Light Rail and some of the bus changes that are being considered and discussed through TriMet and through their public involvement. I think, Claudia, you're a public involvement person, right? Okay. And so they're here to talk about that public involvement effort, what it's going to involve, and maybe some of the feedback that you've already heard. I'm not really sure where you're going to go with that, but they're here, and so you want to step up. We need to introduce yourselves and who you're with, and did you want these handed out for now,
I
or
just brought those for your front desk, and yeah, sure.
do they have them yet?
We're handing
They
them out all
are
over
in
the
their
place.
packets in a paper format. They're the meeting cards. The- yeah.
And Claudia, I'd like one of your business cards, please.
Pardon?
I'd like one of your business cards,
Sure.
please. Thank you.
Let me know, and I'll dim the lights. Are you going to start with?
I'm just going to just talk for a second. So my name is Claudia Steinberg. I am manager of community affairs for TriMet's Portland-Milwaukee Light Rail project. And I wanted to just briefly talk a little bit about the project, just a few things. And then Carrie Ayers Palanek, who is manager of service planning, is going to talk to you about some specific assumptions, some ideas we have looking at the bus service for Portland-Milwaukee Light Rail. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with the Portland-Milwaukee Light Rail project. If you travel up and down McLaughlin, you go by Park Avenue, you go through Milwaukee, you see a lot of construction going on right now. And we are going to be opening our light rail project in September of 2015. And we are, I think, 70% done with the project. And the project has 10 stations. And I like to start from the south and move north when I'm in the southern part of the region. This first station will be at Park Avenue, and that has a park and ride lot of 398 spaces. It is being built to accommodate more spaces. We've learned a lot from our project that it's better to build it so it could be added onto in the future rather than make it so we can never do anything like that again. Now, if light rail were to come to Oregon City via McLaughlin, then there probably would not be a need for a larger park and ride lot than there is right now. But we don't know that. I know that McLaughlin is one of the corridors that in the future where Metro has identified as some sort of either light rail or rapid bus.
Question.
Yes.
Someone had asked me about the Green Line coming to Oregon City. Is that not?
Well, that would be part of it too. So there's two. I would thank you for you. That was the second alignment. When Metro did their plan for high capacity transit, there was it was looking at Clackamas Town Center, I-205 to Oregon City, and the other corridor they were looking at was McLaughlin. So those are the two corridors. And I have to say, there are a lot of people that are interested in light rail going to Oregon City.
Probably not both.
So
Probably not both of those lines.
no, it would be one corridor or the other. And I don't know who the region will determine that in the future, but they've both been identified as high capacity corridors. So we start at Park Avenue, and as I said, we have a park and ride lot and the station. There's a connection with the buses from McLaughlin to that station. Then we have a station in downtown Milwaukee at Lake Road and 21st. The next station is at Tacoma. Then we have a station, 2 stations on 17th Avenue because we travel along McLaughlin. We have another station, at Bybee. Then 2 stations along 17th Avenue, a station on Clinton. Then we have a station at OMSI. We cross. You've all probably, if you're going into Portland, seen the brand new bridge that is being constructed. And there's a station at OMSI, and then one on the other side in South Waterfront. And then the last station is Lincoln, which is on 4th and Lincoln. And then the train will connect with the existing mall, and it will go up and down the mall all the way to Union Station. So a lot of people think it just stops right at Portland State, but it doesn't. It will go all along the Transit Mall, where it will connect with the red line to the airport, the blue line that goes to Hillsborough and to Gresham, and then the interstate line that travels north along Interstate to Expo Center. Maybe someday it will go, if Columbia River Crossing goes, it would go into Vancouver. So it's really a regional system that's connecting to a lot of different areas. And what I'd really like to do is just say that the outreach that we are beginning to talk about is really how are the buses going to connect to the light rail. And we've made a huge dollar commitment this region has, and we want to make sure that we use our dollars efficiently and effectively. And Carrie's going to talk about some of the assumptions that we're looking at for the light rail, but I wanted to just briefly tell you that we are going to be doing quite a large outreach effort during this next year. It started in January, and we first started out meeting with the jurisdictions, and John was one of the people that met with us, as well as Happy Valley, Gladstone, Clackamas County, City of Milwaukee. Really the southern area of the cities met. Estacada was invited. I don't think they attended. Were able to attend. Really wanting to talk to them about what the plans kind of are going to looking like, and really asking these jurisdictions, you guys, who should we be talking to? And so when you saw the outreach, I know that there was a draft outreach sheet that I think was shared. And I just wanted to make sure that you knew that that was just a draft, and by no means are we neglecting the southern part of our region. We have Happy Valley, we have Gladstone, we have Jennings Lodge, we have Oregon City and all your neighborhoods that we do plan and want to talk to. I know we have scheduled a meeting with the Hazel Grove neighborhood. I know that one of our planners is going to be meeting with that neighborhood to talk about the bus service planning, not only Portland, Milwaukee, but really the greater bus service planning, the Southeast Enhancement Plan that Carrie will be talking about. But we really want to hear from you who we should be talking to. Who we've been talking to right now, we've been at Clackamas Community College. We've been on the Portland Mall tomorrow talking to people that ride the bus lines that are moving south. The 31, the 32, the 33, the 34, the 99 Express. There's a couple others, but we really want to hear from our riders. We also have a website, part of the Portland Milwaukee Light Rail website, and we have a whole area with bus service. And we've had been getting quite a few comments from our riders and from the neighborhoods that we've been just beginning to visit. And we've got over 100 comments already, and what I'm hearing, I'll give you a flavor of it, is please don't end the service of the 99. They have a lot of passionate riders, and they would like to see it continue to go into Portland. They're not the only ones. There are some riders of the 33. Some people actually think we're cutting the service, and we're not cutting the service. We're looking at some assumptions that would have the service end at a light rail station in Milwaukee, but we're not cutting service. But we've heard a lot of folks say that they're really excited about it. They just want to see more. And we do know that there are a lot of areas that are underserved. There are places that we need to focus on, and people are sharing that information. But from this part of the world, Oregon City, people are really concerned about the buses ending in Milwaukee and not going all the way downtown Portland. So then finally, there is this fact sheet, that a little postcard that was mailed out to over 18,000 people, and we have an email list of people that visit our website and say they want to know more about light rail and send me information, and they were also emailed information. And there is going to be a workshop in Oregon City on March the 4th. It's an open house at the Pioneer Community Center, and there's one in Milwaukee on the 27th of February at the Milwaukee High School. Those are two places in the southern area, and that's just the beginning of our outreach process. Once we hear from folks in this round, late February, early March, Carrie and her group are going to go back and look at our comments and really come up with a proposal, and then we will go out to the community in the summer and then talk again about it. So there's quite a few opportunities to talk to TriMet, and I just want to make sure that we pay special attention to folks out in the southern region. I know that what I hear are, don't forget us. We really see this as really important, and there's a lot of excitement to use the system. So.
Would that mean that the Milwaukee Transit Center then would move over to Park Place?
The current Park and Ride?
I mean the transit exchange, like our Oregon City Transit Station, where the buses all come together and you can switch buses and move on.
And it would move like...
Well, there's one in Milwaukee.
Right.
Would that move to the Park Place so you can get onto the trains as well as the buses?
Well, what we're looking at right now is the downtown Milwaukee station. The buses will serve that station right there at 21st and Washington. There is a Park and Ride in Milwaukee. It's got 329 spaces.
But if I was to go from Wynwood, I'd have to go into Milwaukee, transfer to another bus, go to Park Place to get onto the train to go to Portland.
No, you would want to come into Milwaukee, Lake Road, and you'll transfer right there.
Well, anyway, that was the gist of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to come into Park.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to. You don't want to go backwards to go forwards. That would be very annoying for folks.
There are no plans to move the Oregon City transit station. Okay.
They're not.
So I've kind of given you a little bit of information, but I think Carrie is the one that's really the expert in all this, and she can kind of go through what the assumptions are and answer some more of your questions.
Okay. So I'm just going to start with this little PowerPoint presentation here.
Carrie, what's your last name?
I'm sorry, Ayers Palinuk. John got it pretty darn close. And I'm the service planning manager at TriMet. So in addition to talking about Portland-Milwaukee light rail and the bus service that's going along with it, I would like to take just a few minutes to talk about TriMet bus service in this region. March, which is just coming up in a couple weeks, believe it or not, is we are going to be adding service in this area to our frequent service network. So that means that the line 33 that currently goes from Clackamas Community College into Oregon City and then into downtown Portland will have 13 new trips, all midday. So we're increasing, isn't that great news?
Well, yeah, because I get people standing out in front of my house waiting to catch the bus.
Yeah, so that'll be 13 new trips during the midday hours, and we're doing that on all the frequent service lines. There's 12 frequent service lines, but the 33 in particular down here in Oregon City, excuse me. So that's March. In September, we usually do our annual service plan in September, and we're also, what we look at, and I've got a handout that says 2014, I think, annual service plan. What we look at is 3 different factors: maintaining the service that we have, expanding service, and improving service. And for September of this year, what we're looking at is maintaining service. And that means if you're on a bus that's just totally crowded and it's just not comfortable, we look at that and we say, well, we probably need to add some service to that. So there will be 11 different bus lines that we're going to add at least one trip to, maybe more trips. And the 33 is going to be one of those. We're going to add an earlier trip from Clackamas Community College. The 99 is also going to have some improved service, and that will be from downtown Portland in the afternoon rush hour.
I don't see 32 on the list. Is that one being addressed? Possibly into a 7-day service?
That is really nice, and we would love to do that, but we're not going to be doing that for September. But right now, for September, what we're planning is the 11 bus lines, and I believe that those are listed on your sheet.
Yeah, which is why I mentioned 32, because it's not.
Yeah. It doesn't have capacity issues, or it's not at the top of our list for reliability, which means reliability for us means, does the bus get to the destinations at the time that we say it's going to? Does it need more running time? And so it's not the highest, it's not at the top of the list for either of those two categories.
I have had people say they'd like to ride it on Saturday and Sunday, though.
We've heard that as well, yeah. So anyway, that's what's happening for September of this year. Now, Portland-Milwaukee light rail opening will happen in September of next year, and that's what we'll be talking about mostly this evening. And I'll go into that in more detail in just a minute. But I also wanted to talk about what's going on beyond September of 2015. And that's going to be part of the Southeast Service Enhancement Plan. And that's a process that's going to be happening probably later this summer, early in the fall. It'll be a process that will take a while. We'll have planners out that are going to talk to jurisdictions, they'll talk to neighborhood groups. It's quite a planning process. So my point for you is, if you don't see everything that you'd like to see for 2015, when Portland-Milwaukee starts, don't despair. There's another process that's happening. It'll be a longer-term vision for what you'd like to see for transit service in this area. Okay? So let me just kind of reiterate, I think, what Claudia was talking about. When Portland-Milwaukee Light Rail opens in 2015, September, there'll be 10 new stations. All the transit stations on the mall will be served. There'll be 2 new park and rides, one at Tacoma, one at Park Avenue. 718 new spaces for people to park. And there'll be bike parking at all of the new stations as well. It opens in September of 2015. The frequency during most of the day will be about every 15 minutes and about every 10 minutes on average during the rush hour.
Excuse me, what's the dotted circle?
The dotted circle.
Future stations.
Oh, at Herald.
The Herald Station.
You want to talk about that one?
I'm curious when you talk about frequency. So when the rider arrives at your Park Avenue, let's say I live in Oregon City, I'm going to take that drive to the Park Avenue. What's going to be my commute time from Park Avenue into the downtown versus if I sat on a 99 Express and got into downtown?
You know, and I don't have the exact number for the light rail, and I can get that to you, I think. Do you have it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
What we say is between 26, 28 minutes.
From the park into downtown.
On the light rail.
On the light rail.
Now, with the 99 or with the 33, it would depend upon the time of day that you're going and what traffic is like on McLaughlin Boulevard. What light rail is really going to provide is a lot of reliability because they're not in mixed traffic.
I think it's a great. I mean, honestly, I think it's a great thing. I was just curious. What's that?
What's the difference?
What's the trade-off there?
Yes. Yeah.
I have a question about this map. With the exception of the park and rides at Tacoma and Park Avenue, are all these stations existing in one form or another for buses right now, or they'll be completely new stations?
For buses, yeah, they are not currently existing for buses.
Okay,
these are really
so these are all new stations.
For rail, yes.
Question. Where it crosses the Willamette, is that isn't the new Is that the new bridge
The
they're
new
building?
bridge.
Okay.
Yes.
I just had a picture that's more of a
Oh, it does seem like it would be
northwesterly. It
that
looks like
way,
it's going
yes.
backwards or something.
It is diagonal like that, though, if you really
is,
look,
okay.
yeah.
When is that going to be completed?
It will, well, we're going to meet, the KISS, I call it the KISS, is in May, where they actually, the middle comes together. And on the east and west sides, they should be hitting those in the next month and a half. And we will have an event to announce the name of the bridge in April. So it's very, very exciting. Very exciting.
I imagine when they meet the KISS, you hope that the lips are exactly matched.
That's right.
We
We're
really hope
tensioning
that.
it right now, and it can really move up and down when they're doing, with
So
the
can you
tension.
vote on names now?
No, it's too late. But
It's too late?
it's too late.
Oh,
They
okay.
have they
Yeah.
we've
I have
got
a-
some
I have a
finalists right
question.
now.
In your planning, do you anticipate people that have been taking the Clackamas Town Center line switching over to this for convenience?
The green line?
Yeah, if
The
that's
light
the
rail?
green line, yeah, to
I
Clackamas.
think some people might, and I think it will depend on the time that it takes them. If I live between green and this orange line, I would probably go to the orange line.
You know
Because
how
it's
long
gonna-
it takes to go from Clackamas Town Center to downtown? Because you have
A
to
lot
make,
longer.
On
yeah,
the
that's
green
what I
line?
thought.
Yeah, because you have to go up
Lot
to
longer.
Gateway and then,
Yes,
and then across the Steel Bridge, which takes a while too.
And through downtown. This is much
Yeah.
faster.
It
Much
depends on
faster.
where you want to go downtown.
Yeah.
But,
Depending on traffic.
all right, I'll just move on then. So when planning for September of 2015, we obviously have new MAX service that we just talked about, but it allows us an opportunity to look at the bus service that's there currently. And I was going to go over the bus service that's in the corridor, but those maps are kind of hard to see. So let me just say that we have,
I can point.
okay, wow. We have the 9, 17, and 19 that are all coming from
Oh, no.
kind of the east side. They're on
None
the,
of those are in Oregon City.
they're kind of on the top.
Nine.
Yeah, they're 17 and then 19, the furthest one down. I can do that too, yeah, great. Who's doing that? Who's doing that?
That's
Right
way
there.
over there, I'm sure.
9 from Gresham, the 17 and the 19. They all come from East Portland into downtown Portland. We have a variety of buses that are in and around Milwaukee, the 31, and they come from here as well. The 32, the 33, the 34. There's the 35 that comes from Oregon City up Macadam, the 36, which goes through Lake Oswego, the 43. We also have the 28 and 29, which are kind of local service within the Milwaukee area. The 152, which is also from Clackamas Town Center into Milwaukee.
79.
The 79, which goes again from Clackamas Town Center into Oregon City, and then it actually continues on as the 154. But I'm probably, and then the 70, which comes from North Portland through Sellwood, Milwaukee, and into the city of Milwaukee. And then the 75, which comes from St. John's, it comes a long way down Chavez, Cesar Chavez, by Portland, by the hospital there, and then into Milwaukee as well.
Providence.
Providence, thank you. So those are kind of a quick review of the bus lines that are in the Portland-Milwaukee corridor currently. And then we have a blow-up of Oregon City on the right. And I would imagine, so there's the 32, the 33, the 34, and the 99. And it kind of
Martin
shows.
will move if you ask him.
Yeah.
With the Clackamas Community College bus, what's the last bus out of there?
Oh, goodness sakes. I'm sorry I don't have all those details.
Because it used to be, it was 9:45. Classes are out at 10 o'clock. And employees, I had an employee who had to leave early when I used to work there.
Okay.
And he couldn't ride the bus
Okay,
Because I made them stay until 10.
and I can check that for you, and I can get back to you on that one.
Because it seemed like the last bus should be out there quarter after 10.
Well, it should be coinciding somehow with the class schedules
Yeah.
as well. Did he go to school there, or did he work
He
there?
was a student, and he was
Okay.
a work-study student, but I
We-
had to have the place open until 10 o'clock.
And how long ago was that?
It's been 15 years ago.
Okay, because I think we've added service to there, but I can't tell you for sure, because I just don't keep all that in my mind.
I don't get up there anymore, so.
Okay, but I think that's a good point, and I will look into that, and we can get back to you on that. I did want to just show you, just so everybody's kind of in the same page, what kind of service that we're talking about and what's currently available.
What's the difference between those first two maps?
I'm sorry?
Two maps?
So, yeah, this is current,
Proposed, okay.
what we have currently, and then so is this, and this just shows Oregon City a little bit larger.
Got it.
And then what we'd like to talk about next is the assumptions that we have used for reconfiguring bus service for the Portland-Milwaukee Light Rail bus service. And one of those is that all service that's along McLaughlin that's coming into Milwaukee will stop in Milwaukee so people can transfer to the new light rail, which will get them into downtown Portland. That's one of the assumptions that we're starting with. The other assumption, there's only two, is that all the bus service, this 9, 17, and 19 that currently go across the Ross Island Bridge would instead go across the new transit bridge, as yet unnamed. So those are the two assumptions that we are starting with.
So why are you assuming that people would transfer off the Milwaukee bus onto light rail when they may not be able to get to where they're going as conveniently?
We know that many people who are taking the buses that are heading north are heading into downtown.
A lot of them aren't.
Mm-hmm. And we're probably going to hear from those folks.
We are.
And that's why we're here. So what we're planning to do is take these maps out with our assumptions to groups such as you, to the writers, the open houses that Claudia mentioned earlier, and hear what people have to say. And then in the spring, probably April-ish, we're going to come up with a first draft of a proposal for bus service in the corridor. Then we're going to listen to what people have to say about our proposal. And then in the summer, we'll have a second draft of the proposal. We're going to listen again, refine again if we need to. And then at the end of the year, we'll have a final proposal after we've heard from people either via email, in person, there's just on the buses.
Park and rides.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways, and we'll have practically the whole year to hear what people have to say.
Well,
And what we've
Go ahead,
me.
sorry.
What we've heard so far is what Claudia was talking about. Can you keep service on McLaughlin? Can you put service on the Selwood Bridge? Can you have service on Johnson Creek Boulevard? Can you serve the Tacoma Park and Ride with a bus? What's going to happen in inner southwest Portland if you put everything across the Ross Island Bridge? So those are some of the things that we're hearing right now, some of the things that we want to hear from you about, what do you think about that? Yes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I have an acquaintance who's a bus driver. When I mentioned the presentation of the Southeast Enhancement Plan, he knew nothing whatsoever about it. Wouldn't you think that some valuable information could be gleaned from the bus drivers? But
Absolutely. We do think that, and I would have to say, and that's partly my fault, is that we should have engaged the operators earlier. We still plan to engage the operators.
Not drivers. Operators, yes.
We still plan to engage them. We should have done it sooner, and we didn't.
Okay.
I have a couple of issues. So far, all I've heard is Southeast Portland and Milwaukee. I haven't heard anything about improvements in Oregon City. and there are several areas that really need help. One of them would be the line which goes up Holcomb Boulevard. And
What boulevard?
Holcomb Boulevard, which is that
34.
34? I'm not familiar with the
Oh.
numbers, so you'll have
Okay,
to-
yes, that's
you'll have
fine. Yes.
the low-income housing
Yes.
people up there are so underserved, it's almost criminal. Those people don't have any cars. Most of them don't have any cars. It's the only transportation they have besides walking or begging a ride from somebody. Another area is the South End Road further down on that end of town. And both of those areas are just terribly underserved. And I think that the TriMet taxes that are paid from the people, businesses in Oregon City is way out of whack compared to the service that we get. So do you have any plans to improve any of those areas?
Well, and like I said, we're here to listen to what the concerns are. We're going to be doing that through the year for Portland, Milwaukee. Again, I would say that if you don't see what you would like to see on our proposals for September of 2015, don't despair. The Southeast Enhancement Plan is going to be following along in just a few months, and that really is what is the vision for Oregon City and the whole area, the whole southeast area of our district. And while we are a little more narrowly focused on the Portland-Milwaukee corridor, they are not focused on any particular corridor. They want to hear all of your concerns. So don't think that TriMet is going to go away after Portland-Milwaukee starts. But if we hear a lot about that everybody wants more service on Holcomb, or that's the highest priority for Oregon City, we need to know that.
Well, your outreach will be difficult for those people because a lot of them don't have computers, and they wouldn't have an easy way to get to the Pioneer Center for your open house.
Well, that's a really good
I'd recommend
point.
getting hold of the Clackamas County Housing Authority.
Right, and
trying
that's
to
a-
outreach to those people.
That's
Right.
a good idea. Thank
Is
you.
the Park Place neighborhood still active?
Yes,
Yes,
I'm the
okay.
chair.
Well then,
And
why
we're
don't
trying
you
to
invite them to the Park Place neighborhood meeting?
and we're trying to do outreach
Yeah.
in
Right.
more ways
Yeah,
than just
well-
one
Right.
as well.
Because, for example, we've met with Rose Villa, and that's quite a senior community. We're going to be meeting with Willamette View and have special meetings. It's not just the open house is one venue, but I think your point is well taken, and we will get a hold of the Housing Authority, and I'm sure they have community meetings on site or ways that we can talk to the people that live in that community. It's very important. We will
Great,
do that.
thank you.
If you were invited to one of the neighborhood associations, you'd be able to send someone out to talk to them.
Absolutely.
Directly, yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll need your cards.
Sure.
You know, one thing I have seen, which is kind of great, you know, bringing that light rail into Milwaukee, and then potentially, you know, taking those bus services, let's say from stopping them at Milwaukee, and then freeing up that capacity and being able to utilize it somewhere else. So it seems like that when you're taking some of that buses and realizing some savings, you should be able to apply those savings into our region, you know, either in Oregon City.
Yes.
I mean, I don't see a reason why we couldn't see either more frequency serving the park and ride, and also coming out and serving a part of our town and be able to bring more people to that park place. I mean, I think that would really be great for our town and this part of the region. I mean, I think a lot of people will be willing to use the bus service if it's more frequent,
Sure.
especially
Yeah.
for people that are not financially, well. I mean, they really rely on that, and we need to think about them more so than some of the affluential parts of the town.
Who mostly drive anyway.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are choosing not to drive. They don't want to drive too. I know there's a lot more nowadays that are just choosing for alternatives, and they really want to support
But-
public transit.
I mean, I looked at one time, I work up on Sylvan, and it would take me about 2.5 hours by the time I left my house to get to my work, which, I mean, I can't
That's one
afford to
way.
spend 5 hours in traffic going to work, so.
Well, just like an example, if I'm going to I got a meeting at the Forestry Center next week. I don't go through Portland to get to Forestry Center. I go to take I-5, 217, and then come down the hill. I'd like to see, like, express buses from Oregon City, Westland, Tualatin, and catch a group, something over that way to get that into town. I don't want to go downtown and then come back out on, what's it, the train. It comes back this way, but we need, a lot of jobs are over there, not going the long way around.
And when you say over there, do you have anything more specific?
Well, okay.
Tiger, Sherwood,
Tiger,
Tualatin.
South.
Meridian Park Hospital. There's a lot of people a lot of seniors here go to Meridian Park
Oh.
because of their Medicare program, whatever they're on, sends them there. But they're not going to ride all the way downtown Portland and come back around and catch one of the
Right.
to get back to there. That's a
Right.
long.
All you have to do is get on I-205 from Oregon City in the morning rush hour, going out to Tualatin, and you'll know how many riders you might possibly have.
Oh, yeah.
And the same way coming back, evening, it's
It can be horrendous.
When I used to work for the college, they wanted me to come out to the other campus in Wilsondale. And I always tell them, I says, after 9 o'clock,
Yeah.
and I want to be out of there by 3 o'clock.
I mean, I think we all here, we all support what TriMet is trying to accomplish, but we also want to see this part of the community benefit from those services. And I get a feeling that we're not being served in the best possible way. And there's a lot of opportunities that TriMet could make. And I think if they make those, adjustments, that more people will be willing to use your service, which is a win-win for everybody.
So can I follow up? So there's a lot of metro areas with transit systems. A lot of them have the spoke kind of development into the core. And so what I hear other members of the board commission saying is, do you have a plan that would allow you to connect suburb to suburb instead of just going to the core? And the one was the high-speed bus or whatever it's called, yeah. Or
Express.
so is that something on your planning table or not?
I don't think that it's something that we have on a line on a map right now, which is not to say that particularly with this service enhancement plan that it wouldn't be, because if that is Oregon City's, even if you want to just talk about it, we not only will other people be out and talking about the service enhancement plan, but we're going to get this information to them as well. Probably the suburb to suburb is probably not part of the Portland-Milwaukee Light Rail corridor that you'll see in September of 15, but absolutely we will tell the people that are doing the Southeast Service Enhancement Plan that that's one of the things that we heard here.
And they're going to be doing outreach. They're going to be doing outreach, and they're going to be doing surveys, and they're going to be meeting with
a lot
of people, and they'll be working with John and other jurisdictional partners out in the southern part of the region.
I think as the metro area grows, there's going to be more employment out along the ring
Periphery,
around, so
yes.
the suburb to suburb becomes more and more needed.
Perhaps if you use the Metro's buzzwords of regional center to regional center,
Yeah.
it might help.
Right. Mhm. Yeah, this is not the first time we've heard it. But it's about what's the priority, what's the best place to put the money, where are the most people going to be benefited, and that's something that we have to look at as well when we hear from you that that's your a really important concern.
Well, demand is certainly the driver, and if demand isn't there.
Operator, not driver. Learn the terminology.
He's talking about a different driver.
Never mind. Never mind.
Let's kind of move
I'm
on.
used to it.
Let's move on here.
Steve,
But also, I think a sense of receptivity. I know Clackamas County has not always been receptive, in terms of mass transit, and so I think maybe if our attitudes change to be a little more positive, that there might be more receptivity.
We want to put out a lot of service too. Service is, pretty expensive, and so we want to just make sure that we're putting it in the right place.
Steve, can I just a couple
Sure.
things? A couple questions and then a couple points I want to make. But so the postcards you sent to 18,000 people, did that include all of Oregon City or all the 97597?
No, I don't have an answer for you.
Okay. Could you get back to me with that? Because I know that'll be. I just want to make sure. I know I live in the city. I didn't get that postcard, but I'll look for it.
I didn't get it.
No, I didn't.
I'm sure it's probably within the corridor. I know in my mailing list, I stop where I work mostly is Oak Grove Boulevard. Because that's the corridor that I talk to all the time.
In the
But we also
18,000
have larger groups of people, and there are a lot of different mailing lists I'm sure that were used, but I can find out.
Find out if Oregon City's at least city limits. Although it seems like I don't know. It seems like you could reach out quite a ways if you're really kind of looking for that input.
Just like the 18,000 is probably households, not individuals. Is that right?
Households.
Addresses.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, can you restate the March 4th? When is that? This meeting's televised. I don't know how many viewers we get, but
Sure. It's Tuesday, March 4th, 6 to 7:30 at the Pioneer Community Center, 615 5th Street.
okay. And then I guess I just wanted to share this Transportation Advisory Committee is the only one for Oregon City, and it represents a cross-section of residents and business owners, pretty well-connected group, pretty long-established group of people who I want to say share the information that they hear here with others. Generally, we get that. We've also got our, and TriMet, the general manager, has been at the city commission meeting and shared an update there as well. So that group, I think, is relatively well covered, although they asked for repeat visits. So this body, I know, would like a repeat visit at some point down the road when that makes sense. And then the other group is the Citizen Involvement Committee. And in the city, we've got 15 or 16
12.
neighborhoods. 12 neighborhoods?
12.
Okay, 12 neighborhoods. And they meet monthly as well. They meet the first Monday of
Some
the month.
quarter. Oh, CIC meets monthly. Yeah.
CIC meets monthly. And
We're scheduled for that.
you're scheduled for that one? Okay, good. Because there is neighborhood representatives from each of the 12 neighborhoods that come to those, and then the theory is that they disseminate that information to the neighborhoods. So while you're going to get a few pretty active neighborhoods want to hear from, they'd probably like to have a TriMet representative to each of their meetings. There's going to be others that maybe don't or won't be organized enough to kind of get to there. But so just kind of keep those groups in mind. For kind of city representation, and I guess the other piece that I would say is that this, you could get comment. Part of the frustration that I have with the online comment piece, it's true for TriMet, Metro, anybody else that does the online surveys, is the quality of the person, the knowledge base of the person filling out the comment may be really focused on their little interest area. I'm not sure I think this body represents a much wider understanding, much more informed understanding. We've also all been involved in the city's transportation system plan, so they get updates on active transportation and regional transportation planning. So I guess in terms of weight of feedback, this body should have a higher level of weight in their feedback than that's my opinion, I guess, on that. So just wanted to mention that as well.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
You have some more, any more?
That's it. We just,
The only thing
go ahead.
I was just going to say, based on what John just said, I know that you've got a lot of things on your agenda, but we would really like to hear from you some of your ideas, and maybe if you could share those with John, and John, you could send them to us,
Memo or
so we could really have a fuller understanding of what you're hearing from your constituents. It'd be really helpful.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
And hope to see you some more.
Yes, you will. Thank you.
And
I'll leave
cards.
my card.
Bunch of them.
Okay, now we'll go back to citizen comment. And I got Amy Willite.
Would you mind, Amy, if we let Jim go first? I mean, he today was his day off. I heard today was his day off, and he's here, and
He's on overtime.
Do you mind? Okay, you don't mind doing
I
this.
don't know if it can do this.
You're asking a lot, John.
He's carrying a gun. Kathy. You can do this.
He's on salary, so we can
Stripping for action here.
make him work as hard as.
Yeah, but we got to pay him.
Names
No.
there if you want to put it up. I don't
You
know.
don't pay salary people over.
I'll tell you kind of a neat little story is
can-
I've been at the hospital all day as baby Libkey was born today. So I'm anxious to get back, and this is the first
Gender?
many people know this yet, so little girl.
Yeah.
So it's been a good day.
Yes.
Is there a name, Jim?
Yes, Ziva.
Say that again.
Ziva.
Ziva.
Ziva Nicole.
Thank you.
And I should.
Oh, that's a TV
Here,
show.
I'll hand him out.
Ziva Nicole?
I can.
No, Ziva. Ziva.
Warrior Princess?
No, NCIS is Ziva.
Mazel tov.
Well, good evening. I've got a handout that's coming your way. I kind of know why I'm here. I know it's to talk about traffic and
Accidents.
yeah.
And you said he was.
And I know that some of this came from some facts that I had shared at the Chiefs Advisory meeting, and then some information that was relayed to you. And so I've got a little more information than I actually gave there, a little more up-to-date information, and I think probably the best thing for me to do would maybe be to just kind of walk through it, talk about traffic here a little bit, and then answer your questions. I first started figuring out where we were with traffic a couple of years ago. We'd applied for some COPS grants, and part of the grant, the main one being the e-ticket grant. I was wondering what the criteria was for whether or not we were going to get awarded this grant. It turned out if you had a heartbeat, you were going to get this grant. But before I knew that, I was trying to figure out our odds, and it was based on what your traffic stats are, basically the need. And I had the ODOT manual, and I started going through and comparing us to other cities to see how we looked. I've told this story to some people. I told this to several people. You may have heard this already, but I'm going to say it again. I started looking at cities around us and trying to find kind of where we were in comparison to our neighbors. And I noticed our stats were a lot worse than theirs. And then I started climbing and looking at different cities. Eventually I got to the city of Bend, that I think the first time I did this was a year or two ago. And they were a city that had kind of like statistics, at least our numbers. Some of the numbers generally were about the same. And their population's close to 80,000. And so this was troubling, and since then we've been kind of trying to figure out why and what to do about. One of the things that this led to was our having a full-time traffic position and kind of changing how the officers who are on the street every day are attacking traffic, not just are they going at traffic, but what specifically are they doing? And so these stats, they speak for themselves. Of everything you see there, we are the 5th largest city. Last year when I did this, we were the 6th. We've actually eclipsed McMinnville in terms of population, and this is based on 2012 census data. Our total injured number that you see there in the column, it says total number of people injured. This is not drivers. This is drivers or passengers in a vehicle. 437. We actually have more people hurt in our cars than in Bend. Bend is more than twice our size, and like us, they're a county seat. Major injury crashes, this number's down for us a little bit in relation to the other cities. And then minor injury crashes, we're at 85, which is obviously the second highest, second only to Bend. I guess Albany's higher than us in that too. And then total crashes, we're about where Albany was again. And the bottom line is we have a lot of crashes here. The main thing that are the number one contributing factor, and this is based off, and one question that came up about this ODOT, the report that they put out every year was, is this include the 97045 zip code, or is this specific to city streets, or some of this unincorporated? And we were on the phone with ODOT in the last week or two, getting some answers, trying to understand more about what they're putting out. And from the person that we talked to at ODOT, this is city streets. This is not unincorporated areas. And if you look at the beginning of their manual, which I think you can find online, it has separate reporting for outlying areas and for counties.
Jim?
Yes.
When you say city streets, it's any street within the city limits, whether it be ODOT, county, city, or is it specific to city street, city jurisdiction? Street?
In other words, in
City
the
limits.
For instance, is 205 or 99E, or those?
Yes. Yes.
Those are included in these
Yes.
stats. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. At the bottom, you'll see statistics for 2013, and there's some trends. And this is the information that I put out at the Chiefs Advisory meeting last month. And this is not based on the difference between what ODOT puts out and what we put out. Is there's a lot of crashes that happen here that people don't call the police. They have a fender bender. They go home, and after they've exchanged information, and then they fill out the state form and send it into DMV. So those numbers from ODOT are generally higher than us. What you see at the bottom are just reports that we have taken, that our police department has actually had an officer go and fill out a police report on. This does not include ones that sometimes on, it used to be more so, state highways we would have OSP would, if you could get a trooper around, they would take the crash report. And on some of the bigger ones, 205 or 99 or 213, they would take the report. So now, because of the number of troopers they've had, they asked us, their office asked us about a year ago if we could just start taking everything. So sometimes now they'll take 205, but 99 and 213, we've been taking crashes on just because they did not have staffing to do it. They're working on that, I know. Total crash reports from 2012 to 13 was 293 in 2012, 421 in 2013. Injury crashes went from 92 to 118, and then the flip side, the citations, the enforcement aspect of it, 4,184 citations that we wrote, which is about 10% higher than it was the prior year. That's on purpose. And then warnings, 556 warnings, and that's down a little bit.
What was on purpose? What do you mean that's on purpose?
Enforcement.
Go write more tickets, guys.
Oh.
Now, are those moving citations strictly?
No, that's everything. That's driving uninsured, that's driving suspended, but then it also includes moving violations. That's a very good question, and I got sidetracked. On those forms, it gives, in that report that we get from ODOT, it gives the reason for those crashes. the number one reason for crashes is following too close. What that really means is rear enders. The majority of the crashes we're having are people not being able to stop before the car in front of them stopped. And that's pretty universal. If you look at all the other cities, you're going to see the same thing, that the majority of their crashes are rear enders. Second was speed, and third was fail to yield right away, which stop sign, red light, and they were very close. Or it might have been flipped. They were very close. But following too close was way out front.
I'm curious, how many citations do you guys write for following too close?
Not, historically, not that many. And the reason is it's kind of a tough ticket to go sell because it's fairly subjective. At speed, you're using a measuring device. You can say at 1,014 feet, I had him going 82.5 miles an hour with a laser gun, where with falling too closely, you're saying he appeared to be 2 car lengths or he appeared to be 100 feet, whatever. But we have started addressing that. We found some upgrades that we could make to our laser guns to they have a software now where they can the officer can see 2 vehicles going, hit the first vehicle, hit the second vehicle, and then get an actual numerical value which will say they're going this fast and this is the distance between the 2 vehicles. We've actually had the municipal court judge out riding in a car, seeing how this worked. She likes the technology. It's good technology, and so we're gonna be writing a lot more tickets on that.
So how did you arrive at the particular set of cities you picked? Because you don't have Hillsborough, Corvallis is kind of comparable to Albany, Tigard, Sherwood. How come you have those particular sets?
I just grabbed, the first cities that I grabbed were cities that were in the county that were kind of next to us, and so there's no science behind it at all. They were cities about our size. And I kept going up, just flipping through the book, and I finally got to Bend, and but beyond that, and that was just because at that time when I first did this, their numbers were even closer than this to ours. So there's no real science behind it. It's just some examples.
Jim, I've never been critical of you, and I'm not about to start.
I don't know how I'd take it if you were.
Let me explain my perspective, however. You're the police chief.
Mm-hmm.
From what I've seen, damn good one.
Thank you.
That being said, you are not a statistician. And before I would be terribly concerned about these numbers, I would want to have a professional statistician look at the numbers. You said there's no science to this. If there's no science to it, I'm not interested in it. I would like science to back it up. I would like to see comparisons, not just between this year and last year, but I would also like to see percentages. What are our numbers as a percentage of our population as of accidents? What would they be as a trend over 10 years, not just this year compared to last year, because that could be a statistical anomaly. I would like to see some professional science put into this before we get terribly concerned about it. I'm concerned about it, and I think that there's lots of extenuating factors. You're reporting more. You've given instructions to cite more. Those are going to skew your numbers. We have Bend is a flat city. There's hardly any hills in Bend. We have a lot of up and down terrain. We've got a lot of wiggly roads. There's a lot of extenuating circumstances that could skew these figures, and I would like to see us being as close as we can comparing apples to apples. Rather than saying, oh well, the rear ends is the problem. Well, I'm not sure there's going to be a solution to that, but I think that there is a problem, and I think that if your goal then is to find out what's causing it, then I think we need better science on it. That's just my comment on it.
Sure, and let me. I completely agree with you. What I came here because I was told that somebody came here, and so before this meeting, I have had the information, and what we've been doing with ODOT has included how do you guys come up with your figures? What do you guys know? do you guys do an analysis of a city and give us some of the stuff you're talking about, or is that something we would have to pay an outside person? So I'm already headed down the road that you're talking about, because I realize that this is,
At first blush, it looks like there's an issue. But I think it'd be worth spending some money.
Well, it would be interesting to know, like, for instance, the variables that we have. A community college might be a variable, convergence of several highways, where there's a lot of, you're going to 55 and then suddenly everybody stops. Those are variables. It would be interesting to see how those would factor in. I would think someone has software that you could plug the incidents of traffic accidents and then have them factor all that in. That would be interesting.
And another thing is, we've been looking at county seat. We're a county seat.
Exactly.
Well, McMinnville's a county seat.
Mm-hmm.
They have college.
But it's also a county of, I think, 100-some thousand people, and we're a county of 300-some thousand people. So, there are a lot of variables, and there's more to come, and but you can. And John and I have had conversations, and my conversation at the Chiefs Advisory when this first came up was, is this an engineering thing? Is this a traffic numbers thing? We don't really know. And I don't, I don't typically, I would not have come here to tell you that, but I'm just straight shooting you. This is what I know right now. I know there's a problem, and
if I can give you guys just a little insight.
Well, just let me finish one thing. The thing that I want to say is that we're going to find out why it is. We've already been in the process of it. The Chiefs Advisory is something where I'm kind of relating to people what we're working on right now, and so it isn't necessarily something where my choice would be. Enough said. This kind of started with me saying, look, there's a problem we've found and we're looking for it. If I would not have come to a traffic advisory committee at this point in my game by my own choosing, I'd have waited till I had much better information. But I do know this. One thing that is relevant, if I live in this city, I think it's relevant in that whether it's flat or whether there's hills or whatever it is, I'd look at this and go, my city is not as safe as other cities. And so my job is to figure out exactly why and to work with Public Works and come up with the solution that we all understand and make sure that people are giving us information that we may have missed or if there's things that we haven't thought about. So I'm in complete agreement with you. This is premature. I'm just and I'm prepared to talk about South End a little bit if you want. The bottom line is I think we had 4 crashes on South End.
If you just look at population, that indicates that we should look into this further, because just based on population, that's a problem.
It's not all population, because you get the Redland people, the Beaver Creek people, the Molalla people. They're all coming somewhere through here.
Exactly.
Well, if you want to compare some of these numbers that Jim's given you, apples to apples, one thing that we typically do is take a look at the number of incidences per 1,000 residents. And we just sitting here, we penciled the numbers out, and we're sitting second highest out of all the cities that are listed here. Per 1,000 residents, the only higher number of incidences, Tualatin, was 17.32 accidents per every 1,000 residents. We're sitting number 2 at 16.9 accidents per every 1,000 residents.
What's a Lake Oswego?
Lake Oswego is sitting at 7.22.
So that brings me to, are drivers there more cautious? Are the police enforcing matter more?
They drive Mercedes.
They've got more expensive cars.
Yep.
And they're more careful.
But they have a highway.
It's one thing I'll say, and this is unscientific, but they have a very active traffic team, and they're known as having a traffic team. One assumption people make is that every cop car has a radar in it, and the other thing is just as a cop over the years, I run into people and they go to, if I was a plumber, they'd go to a plumbing story but I'm a cop, so they go to a cop story, and that's always a traffic ticket. And I think people assume that 90% of what cops do is write traffic tickets, and the reality is it's 5 or 10% of what we do. Most cops are going to crimes, or they're getting back so they can write reports on crimes. So some of it has been just an availability thing. But I also think it has a lot to do with how we're laid out. I know, the other interesting thing about talking to ODOT is the person at ODOT said, yeah, we know about you guys. We know you guys are bad. We know your crashes. There's some sort of an awareness or something like that about them knowing that we're, it's like hearing, I heard you're the bad kid in class or something like that. So, they're aware of this. And one other thing I'll say is they have told us in the past that dangerous are things like 213 with, where you've got a state interstate where people are going, 55, 60, 70, and you've got cross streets, Mall Avenue, Beaver Creek Road, and these sorts of things going across.
It's just
I was going to ask if you could use a hand with some of the basic tabulation of data and such. A volunteer or somebody like that to come in and just help put things together for you. Crunch numbers.
It depends on who that person is.
How about an ex-engineer?
I'd love it.
Okay.
I would absolutely love it.
Mayor Neely's a statistician.
Yeah.
Then John's got my number.
Okay.
Well, I'd just like to say that I appreciate the fact that you recognize we have a problem. We certainly haven't had time to gather all the statistics that William would like to see, but at least you're trying to get a hold on it, and that's where you have to start with something like this. So thank you very much for.
One of the factors I haven't heard you talk about is the amount of vehicle traffic through a community, which doesn't necessarily relate to its size. So, for example, Troutdale, where I used to work, with the community college, that you think of it's in Gresham, but two sides of it are in Troutdale, and you have I-84 and traffic coming through Troutdale and 3 major collectors, and so they have a disproportionate number of statistics like you have, and that was determined to be part of it. We didn't hire consultants, but that there's just lots of traffic through there. So that may be something that's in play here, and so you want to figure out which variables you need to focus on that are going to be relevant to giving you an answer that's workable.
Accidents per trip count would be a very pertinent statistic that for some of the heavier incident areas that you're having problems on, Malala, or if you're doing some of the work for 213 or 99W for the state, those would be some of the stats that Henry could probably help you.
So OC stats.
30 years ago, we used to have a problem.
Yeah. Because you were a teenager.
No, I wasn't.
Now there's new teenagers.
But 30 years ago, 213 was on 7th Street.
Yes, and it was a major problem.
Well, and it would be, I don't know if we have that kind of software, at the police station, but if, when tickets are given, if you were to put a virtual, pin on the map and to see whether if are there clusters as to where these are happening, all down to 99 near the shopping center, or, that would be interesting to me to see where the clusters are, if there's any.
The tough thing is with enforcement is you can name off the communities. Traffic is a dance. Because everybody wants more citations being written, and I get emails constantly about the speed, blah, 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 and then that person gets a ticket, and these doggone cops. So
only 5 over.
I was going to say, I hope we never become like Milwaukee, because it's got such a reputation.
And that's what I don't want to be. I don't. The reason we're kind of looking for statistics and such is I want to make sure that I'm not going to resort strictly to let's just go cite the living heck out of everyone, because that might not be the fix. I guarantee you that's going to be part of the fix. But there's an education piece too. We started doing in-house a traffic safety class for first-time offenders, and this is our 2nd month we've done it, and the reviews from kids. We've had high school kids saying, I thought this was going to be a horrible class, and it was an amazing class. I learned a lot. So, yeah, and it is. It's a bunch of scary, horrible pictures that say, "Look, this could be you," and so.
That's great.
Well, one nice thing about issuing more citations is that it really affects person's insurance.
Yes.
And that's really when people start paying attention and following the laws is when it hits their pocket.
Why'd you pick a black car? I have a black Mustang. And people slow down for me.
Yeah, we've got some.
I guess one flip side to having the worst numbers in the region, second worst numbers in the region, is that it should have some influences. You know, having just come off the grant cycle and having not been successful there, these kind of numbers, if we can start pulling information that's meaningful that you know we can compare. I mean, ODOT has a whole program right now that Oregon City didn't make any projects through the ODOT safety improvement program. They were looking at intersections and intersection improvements, but we weren't on the list. They were competing across the region, and there was nothing in Oregon City that ended up on the list. So where they got their data, I'd be interested. My guess is my sense is they put a fair amount of science to that process and looked pretty hard at particular intersections. So I'd like to kind of put our heads together on that, because DKS did that work with the state, and they've got a pretty good summary of accident data as well. So,
John, how would it be difficult? I mean, we have at City GIS is to take the traffic ticket data, because I imagine there has to be an address or something assigned to a location, right?
Yeah, there is.
To feed that information and then plot. I mean, this wouldn't be a big exercise to have a map and saying, "Hey, we really have issue with the 213 corridor." I mean, it's obvious.
One of the good things I'll just say about technology, our e-ticket, the system we got the grant for, it includes mapping. So we are now going to be, it's not exact, necessarily. Sometimes it's where you're stopped versus exactly, but generally. So some of that is just included. Now we're going to be able to push a button. We've only been into e-ticket for a few months now, but
is that GPS straight from the unit, or is it based on what the officer enters into?
It goes based on what is entered as the location in the citation.
So they'll give tickets or information from an iPad basically instead of a paper.
They instead of citation in triplicate. Or I think there was actually 4 of them, which it's kind of crazy what still exists like that anymore, but a citation. You enter the information into your computer, and then you just print it out. It's auto-populated, actually. If you run the plate, it automatically puts the vehicle in the RO. The really good thing is, one, it cuts down on inaccurate, when a records person just can't read somebody's writing and that kind of stuff. But the other thing is then you don't go give that citation to a records person who takes time and spends hours a day entering tickets. When the officer clears the call, it's already in the computer. So it's.
And what will the angry driver do now? He can't tear it.
He can still tear it. Yeah, we print off a copy. You still get to go home with something.
Yeah. Or they give you the option to give you your email address, and they'll email it to you conveniently.
I'll text you too.
Text me. Yeah.
I think, John, you included a few pages back that memo between you and David Nolan that shows how the GIS system's working.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got traffic counts. It seems to me you can add accidents and police-related information.
Yeah, Jim and I talked about it. I mean, right now he's got the list. We've not taken that information, but it'd be good to see. I mean, I could tell you based on calls, we probably hear most about 12th and Washington. We hear about that intersection all the time. Or Glen Oak Road and 213. Those are just based on call volumes and the calls that I take. I know those to be high. My guess is that we probably would see similar results if we could map that data. So I don't know if Jim can still provide that for us. But
that's what Henry wants to do for you.
What's that?
It sounds like that's what Henry wants to do for you.
Yeah. So, I think putting it in graphic form, if we have it in a spreadsheet form, it's pretty easy to do. Our GIS group can do some amazing things. But
Well, I salute Jim for the early on noticing that there is something going on here. Thanks for bringing that to our attention.
You betcha. Now, this was about South End. Is there any...
Nah.
It really wasn't about South End as much as that's where
So many requests came.
I mean, Paul brought this to the meeting at the end of our last meeting, and just kind of laid it out there. And I think at the time we just said we need to hear more about that. But it wasn't. I don't know if he specifically drew it to South End or not. It was just
No.
He had an issue with Kenema and people.
But is there
speeding
something you
through-
want to share about South End so that we can?
There were 4 crashes on South End Road inside of the city last year.
Or intersections, or just?
Intersections.
How about Kenema?
4 out of
there were a
out
couple.
of, 421.
I think it's important because I guess we are going through the Southwest End Concept Plan adoption. You folks all voted unanimously to approve that plan. The Planning Commission just recently voted unanimously to adopt that plan. But yet there is still this discussion about how terrible it is for South End, and I think that so it'll be I guess your report on that is helpful.
One at 4th Avenue in Ganong. That's Kenema.
When we talked earlier, you thought there was maybe a handful, 5. Given on 99E, I mean, given the 99E's had a couple of accidents on it.
Well, there's potential to have more with that area developing. I mean, there's going to be more population, so I mean,
yeah,
it's not bad right now. 4 out of 400, and
Just a lot of red light runners down by the bridge near the shopping center all the time. You sit there and you'll see 3 of them go by, and you're supposed to be moving, and they're still coming.
Well, I mean, the other thing is the flashing yellow. It's been there's a learning curve that goes along with those. Lots of times, it's there's certain intersections where you see an increase in accidents because of the flashing yellow.
Yeah, but
and
if I've got crossing traffic and there's green lights facing me, something's wrong.
Say that again now.
If I'm at an intersection, and I'm looking at green lights and there's cross traffic going through, still, something's wrong.
That was my line when I was still writing tickets. Was if I saw somebody in an intersection and they had not made it half. That's how over the top. It was ridiculously obvious. If you see green light, that's what most cops go by.
Yeah. And
You have no place to sit.
Tonight on McLaughlin out in Gladstone, I saw that.
So I'll be getting back to you when I know more.
well, one thing I would like to know is that how much is it related to intersections, like accidents within the intersection?
It is there. There's definitely a lot in intersections. I've got a spreadsheet here. It's the main thoroughfares. It's 7th up through Mall Avenue.
What a
It's
surprise.
Beaver Creek. It's Washington. It's McLaughlin. And it's 213. That's where the majority of our crashes happen. And then there's things interspersed all over the place. The one thing when you think about those areas too is there's foot traffic everywhere. And so when you think about people rear-ending each other, there's a lot going on. And typically it's somebody not paying attention or a vehicle stopping quick because another car stopped in front of them, or is it a pedestrian? Or there's a lot of foot traffic in all those areas we're talking about.
I'll tell you one thing that's almost got me a couple of times. I've been safely coming up 7th, or Malala, and someone will come across the grocery outlet, and so they're starting from clear across the street. And they're not even to the center median, but they're walking, and the person just in front of you just locks it up to be overly courteous.
Yeah.
And I've about bit the dust a couple times there. So.
Another thing that might have skewed some of these statistics is the use of cell phones over the recent time.
We're writing a lot of those tickets
Yeah,
these
I'll
days
bet.
too. That's a big deal.
Driving under the influence.
It's an easy way to rear end somebody.
Driving
too.
under the
You're looking
influence
at
of
your
a cell
phone.
phone, yeah.
At any of these intersections, are there any of them enforced through the red light cameras? We don't have any of those in the city.
No. No, I have actually, when like Blaine was talking about with the reputation of you know, and I'm just thinking out loud here, which gets me in trouble a lot, but
This is televised, Jim.
when I think when communities go, this is just Jim Band's personal opinion, when you go to the radar trailers for speed, that is something that just people don't like it.
Yeah, that's
and I've
big
never
deal.
really liked it,
That's a
and
big deal, yeah.
and I think that gets over that line of what you're talking about, where you get into kind of a strange relationship with your community, and I don't think it's a good one. The lights, you know, there's communities who have put in some of the photo red light, and I don't think it's quite as subversive, maybe because it's, you know, everyone in the community knows where the lights are. So I don't. It's not something I've ever really looked at.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you
Okay,
very much.
Thanks for coming
Jim,
by.
thanks.
Appreciate it.
And we'll be talking.
All righty, thank you.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you, Amy.
You're not gonna-
No, I'm sorry.
Thanks for waiting.
I knew that you wouldn't mind because you'll share this information.
Oh, wait, I've got a report I'd like to give first.
Do we need to help, or is
Did it lock up? No. Okay.
Your name and residence.
My name's Amy Wilhite, and I live in Oregon City. I am the chair of the Gaffney Lane Neighborhood Association, and that's why I'm here today. Over the course of the past, we meet quarterly, and probably the last year especially, there's been concerns about a certain intersection that has come up, and so that's what I wanted to talk about, if I can remember how she said to bring this up.
Slideshow.
Oh, whoops, not that.
here?
I just need to remember where it says slideshow.
Click them all.
There's the slideshow.
And the menu bar?
Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, but I want to go back. There we go. Okay.
Just use these.
And I didn't have a team of marketing people or photographers to help me, so I apologize if some of them are blurry and not so excited. But this is the intersection that the concern is regarding, and we're talking about pedestrian safety. That's the biggest concern. If you look right where the intersection is of Garden Meadow Drive and Malala Avenue, right up Garden Meadow Drive is the Meadows Retirement Center. There's also and I apologize, I was going to look up, there's a Meadowlark apartment complex that
That's where Citizens Bank is, right on the corner there, right?
there's a bank, yeah.
You can use the mouse as a pointer if you want.
And yeah, well, there's a big A. Big A.
And the post office is right there.
Right. I'll show, that's the next. Okay, so if you're heading north on Malala Avenue, you're coming from 213, you're coming right past the fire department, so you're reading this sign, you're noticing the lights as you're coming north. You get a little closer and you'll see this sign right here that's telling you to make sure you go off to the side. This car has just pulled off of Garden Meadow, and what you can't see is the crosswalk that cuts in between that. There's a little bit
A median.
without a cars, so that you can still see there's the median there.
The crosswalk goes through the median?
Yeah,
Yes.
this is where you really can't see that there's a crosswalk. When you're driving, you don't know that there's a crosswalk there. If you're coming from Safeway heading south, as you're approaching, right here is the intersection of Garden Meadow Drive. Again, here is the median, and here's this big tree. In the summer, you can imagine when it's full of leaves, it even adds to the visibility problem there. Here's a little bit closer. So now you're starting. This is about. You can tell that the paint has come off of the lines, and you can see the. This is the median that the walkway goes through. If you're standing at, so the bank is right here. You're standing, and you're looking at the crosswalk. Here's Wilco. This is a close-up of the divider. This is what you focus on because it's bright yellow. This is what you see. When you're driving, this is what you're noticing. You don't notice that there's a crosswalk, and you don't notice that there might be people on the side because of the bright yellow brings your eye just directly to the median. And I have to say, when I was out taking these pictures, I was out there for quite some time. The speed limit is 35 through here. What? Yeah.
Maybe 55?
It's 35.
No one
About
slowed
45.
down for me at all, ever. I was standing in the middle of the road. No one ever slowed down. They just were flying. And I mean, yeah, 35, They weren't going 35. So this is the intersection. Here's Garden Meadow. So here's Biscuits. Right here is the retirement community. So a lot of the people coming from Garden Meadows, this is where they cross to go to the post office, to go to Fred Meyer. Because if they were to go up these sidewalks, as you know, then you're hitting Subway and a lot of businesses. There's so many driveways that come out and there aren't full sidewalk. And so they don't want to go up to the signaled walk because the likelihood, they're scared they're going to get hit in a parking lot. It's safer to take their chances here. Some people from the Berry Hill Retirement Center that is just up at Gaffney Lane, they cut through the back neighborhoods and come to this intersection if they're going to the post office because they can avoid Malala Avenue again. So there is a lot of use, especially by our elderly citizens right here. There's a lot of kids on bikes. There's a lot of foot traffic of college kids walking. If you go at 9, 10 in the morning, there's a lot of foot traffic right here.
And wheelchair traffic.
What?
And
wheelchair traffic. And scooter traffic. And if you're sitting at Garden Meadow at the stop sign, this is what you see. Here's the intersection. Now, this is on a cloudy day, and this is what it looked like. I mean, I know it's a bad picture, but it was a bad view. It's hard to see. You don't even know that there's a crosswalk there that you need to be watching for pedestrians. You're watching people coming down from Safeway. You're watching people pulling out of this parking lot here. You're watching people pull out from the post office here. So you're watching traffic. You don't notice that there's pedestrian traffic coming.
Is there any signs on Malala indicating the pedestrian crossing?
Here's where the pedestrian crossing, there goes a little sidewalk here into Wilco. Here's their main parking lot. You can see that the striping is coming.
Get rid of studded tires.
The TSP, I just briefly copied part of the TSP because one of the big questions was, is this new? Are people aware of it? Yes, this is something that John's very aware of, that a lot of people are aware of. There's a lot of problems along Malala Avenue, but this specific intersection, so I just, it talked about that they realize there's sidewalk gaps. They know that they need to, make these ADA ramps, adding things. So I just put that on there that we recognize that there is an awareness, but not enough for the time being. One of the questions that was brought to us was, the grant application that just failed recently. Did those were the things that were listed on there? Would that help? Is that what we're talking about? And yes, some of it. The lighting is poor. The ramps don't meet ADA. The signaling. Well, right here there is no signals. You would have to go up farther. Something that had been looked at to possibly do were flashing beacons. On the TSP, any of those intersections were listed as medium term. I don't know what that is. That 3 to
time-wise, it was just a list of priorities,
yeah,
and
we
did
have
have
short term, long. Yeah.
Right. There was
yeah.
a
So
short term that was
it was
gonna happen
noted
quickly.
that there were issues, but it was kind of lumped together in that whole Malala Avenue project. And we believe that this is something that can't wait that long. And so I think there's some quick fixes that some short-term things that can be done right away. One of the things that can be done is to repaint the crosswalk. John would know what's legal. I don't know if there's certain things that have to be on certain roadways. I saw a really cool one on a major road. It was this ladder right here, and then off to the sides it had the dashed, so it really stood out. You could see the more white. It was easier to see, I thought, than the solid. It just kind of really brought to the attention. This is something that I think could be done very easily.
Our standard's the Continental, and when I saw those pictures, I was surprised that that crosswalk was installed as a condition of the not Walgreens but the Wilco redevelopment, And the whole median, I mean, for months we've had people running over that median, and it's
Yeah,
just,
you have the yellow.
I almost don't really
Right now,
care
it
for
has
that.
the standard. That
Right.
is what is there right now, that you can tell it has gone away.
Yeah.
But that's
So,
something that
we can add
you guys
that.
approved that?
We could approve, I think the city did approve that, yeah. And, well, I know they did. But I'm surprised that it doesn't have the continental striping, and I'm surprised it doesn't have signage that indicates ped crossings, but.
And then again, the other thing that we could do is add the signage. You know, these are simple signs. You see that noting up ahead is coming, and then also, there's variations on these signs, but that, you know, hey, it's against the law, make sure you stop. You know, these are some things that we thought could be done very easily without costing a lot of money. This is what we would ask, that the TAC recommend happen right away. I mean, let's just get these things done. And then I did call it dreaming about the future, but I decided to call it planning for the future. Some things to think about, some options that there are. They have the solar lighted, so they flash, because this is a dark area, especially with the tree. This is a sign that, where's my thing? That, you know, that it would be nice. Oh, this is really pretty. You know, you got lots of lights, and wouldn't that look nice right outside of Wilco? You have the other options of, like by South End, John McLaughlin School, where you have, you know, they hit the button that they want to cross, and it makes a red light so they can stop. And then, these little nice, so that it lights up on the ground. You know, these, I understand that all these aren't going to be feasible, but long-term or medium-term, we need to look beyond just the signs, because that will help immediately. But because it is so dark, and just the way that is laid out, that there does need to be in the future. There was one copy of a sign I saw. It looked like a railroad crossing. I mean, the whole top had flashing lights and bells and whistles, and, you know, I don't want to see that in Oregon City. I just went through the sign code groove, and I don't want to see something like that. But, you know, something nice. That's why I thought this one here was, you know, that's off.
Can you go back one?
Yeah, I'm sure I can.
Sure.
Just hit the back arrow.
Push the left arrow.
Yeah, there you go.
Much
One more
better.
How
time.
far am I going?
Other left
There,
ear.
that's good. Would it be possible for us to right away take care of the striping for one thing? Because you said you were surprised to see that kind there.
Yeah, it's
And
not
then-
perfect weather for that, so we'll have to wait for the striping until we've got weather for that.
You know, on Thursday and through the weekend, it's supposed to be dry.
You've seen them out, you ever saw watch them stripe?
But the signage,
My friend works for ODOT. They paint all kinds of weather.
They're out there with a propane tank eating
The
it.
signage, we'll go out and investigate that tomorrow, and I'll have a resolution for you by the time we come back next month.
Because I can
More
show
than likely
you, I mean,
have
you
it
can
in
see.
place by then. In terms of the striping, our preference for that intersection would be thermoplastic.
Yeah.
And this is not the optimal time to be doing thermoplastics. We have to treat the base, or the asphalt, all of that. July
Yeah,
might
so
be
you
a
can
good
see there's
opportunity
no
to try and
signage.
pick on something like that.
But what would it really cost to just, paint, just temporary paint? I mean, it's not, we're not talking a
it's-
lot of money.
It's not a lot of money, but it's an
Just
ineffective solution.
Till we get a nice weather to do
It's an ineffective solution. I just don't know. Is it warranted going out, putting out paint in wet weather? It's going to last not even till July.
Henry will volunteer.
No, he won't.
He's going to run the numbers. He wasn't going to paint.
Number one, putting the paint down is a waste of money at this particular point in time. Number two, I've put down those plastic things, and I will tell you, 60 degrees and rising is a better plan
Yeah.
for making sure it sticks past
We'll
midnight.
get a good tack on it. It'll last. We'll get 2-3 years before we need to go out and do a reapplication. It's a good use of taxpayer funds. Plus, it's going to be brighter. It's going to last longer.
Yep.
In my professional opinion, paint in February, it's just a waste of resources and effort. We can do it, but I just don't think it's very prudent.
Yeah.
I can testify to that the intersection of Redland Road and 213, when they were doing the restriping, they painted it first. I think I brought that up, that you couldn't see it,
Yeah.
especially when it was wet. So I think it would be a waste of time for
Yeah,
that.
I mean, signs would be great, and then you paint, that's why it's
Signs first.
great, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The signage issue we can address within the next week or two. I just have to see what we have in stock and what we can get in when we don't.
I have an additional question. In one of the pictures you had there, it looked like they had the decorative street lights there instead of a big street light that would really provide some light for evening.
No, the other way.
Those are the.
Go the other way.
There's a
These are all my
variety.
pictures.
The concept.
You're going
There's
the
all
other
kinds
way.
of things.
There
Yeah.
are Cobra lights on the street.
Yeah, those are all.
There. See right on the corner there. You see that
Oh.
decorative light?
Oh.
It's not
That
a
little
tall light that really.
Yeah, you can't see it.
It doesn't
out
really
any
put light on the crosswalk.
No, if you
light.
drive through here, it is pitch black.
So that would be another thing to have staff investigate. I'm not guessing that it does need that. I'm just saying it looks
Yeah.
like it's an intersection without that kind of light, and perhaps it needs it.
PGE's putting up the LED lights now.
They're
aren't
done.
they? They're done.
They've done all
They
of
missed
the
a
Oregon
few,
City
but
lights.
Okay. And we're on the PGE rental process for lights, aren't we?
Yeah, Schedule A, B, and C lighting.
Right.
So.
So I think.
I think
We could add.
a Cobra mounted light on the
You got some overhead
the
issues.
power line poles are challenged because of the power lines and the conflicts that those are. A separate standalone light pole. Usually, it's associated with a signal. So if you noticed our signalized intersections, they have signal heads,
Yeah.
but they also have a Cobra head that drops
Yep.
down over them.
Right.
We don't have that kind of a facility here, so. But we can. I mean, I think the question is can we look at opportunity for better illumination?
Yeah.
I think we can.
Well, and I've used this section of the road on bicycle and on foot. The Lions Club does its garage sales at the Citizens Bank. We have a lot of
Yeah.
our meetings there, and then go across the street to the post office and whatever. So it is an important
Oh, yeah.
issue you're bringing up, especially with the wheelchairs and so forth. I would be inclined to say, in addition to striping and signage, if we could have a activated signal there, I would be in favor of that. But I do agree that striping with the thermal should wait till good weather and not do the painting.
In the plan for the grant that we were asking for, we identified this location as a pedestrian activated button pushed signal warning system, if you will. So, yeah.
We'll take the one that hasn't gone in on 7th Street yet.
I have a plan for that.
Oh, okay.
Costs
Martin's
money.
on
It
Martin's,
costs money,
Martin's
doesn't
1 year
I've heard
anniversary
so
is
long
about up. I
about
think
it.
we're going to get it in by then.
It's actually my 1 year's over.
I'm curious, how much are those activated signals? generally?
Depending on all the accoutrements, they're between 7,000 to 10,000.
So-
For a run this wide, you probably want to have an intermediary button so they can make it to the refuge island, reactivate if they haven't had enough time. So you're probably looking, I'd say probably 15 without looking at the numbers, but yeah, that distance you definitely have to have a secondary button in the middle.
Garage sales.
The city is taking donations if you want
That's
to
right.
donate money directly to that cause.
Yeah.
There's a Cobra head in that intersection on the Biscuit side, I see.
Yeah. I think
mean,
it goes from decorative on Malala to the Cobra heads on
Biscuit. No, the other way.
Garden Meadow. I saw that earlier too. There you
Right
go.
there.
But it
But that's
it goes right
Yeah,
here.
that's shining on the Garden Meadows.
Yeah, and there's no marked crossing. And I don't, that's another thing. I'm not even sure there was no cross.
We don't mark
Here.
all. We don't mark all crosswalks.
And I understand that, but if you're talking about the light, it's just shining the street. It's not helping the crosswalk.
I mean, is a question? Is there a program where if the neighborhood association were able to raise, let's say, funds, the city would then acquire the equipment and install it?
The only program we have like that is we've got the speed bump program, which is funded through the neighborhoods usually, or a neighborhood group. Martin worked with the McLaughlin neighborhood recently to help fund the permanent installation. So we moved the speed timer that was on 5th. We moved that to Washington, and so there was some electrical requirements. We split the cost with that. So it does help to have a little, because of the cost of these, it does help to have some neighborhood funding. That would
And the
support that.
neighborhood could apply for a Metro Enhancement Grant.
They sure can, although McLaughlin neighborhood wasn't successful with that. But, I mean, I'm not, maybe their application looked bad, I don't know.
I'm just saying, Metro Enhancement has, well, we typically got about $60,000, $70,000 to give away every year.
Well, and I want to say that having a presentation like this with the number of photos you've
Oh, yeah.
put together and then all, that really is helpful in making the case.
Thank you.
And you could just
Yeah,
have
I-
someone out there in a wheelchair, in a car.
They wouldn't slow down for me. I wasn't about to ask for anyone
I
else
almost
to
caused
go
an
out
accident
there.
there. I was on my bike and was looking like I was going to go across. One person just like, I'm okay to wait,
Yeah,
but they
please
just
wait.
like did it right up on and almost caused an accident.
Yeah, I was actually very surprised at the fact that no one. That I don't usually see that in the city, so that was.
You advocating a crosswalk right there too?
I want to be the first to cross.
So this was on this project or this intersection is on transportation improvements plan,
It is.
Yeah,
and the
Not
bill.
specifically, but generally.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. And it's
But
on,
It's a component of a larger.
Okay, and then the Vilco came afterwards after this plan, right?
no, they came before.
Oh, they came before. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not excited about the Wilco crosswalk there and how that came about, but that was a few years ago. So I'm not taking the
I
blame.
think it's more
for that
heavily
one.
used than
I'm not.
But I guess the other thing I'd like to say is I want to thank Amy because Bob and I have kind of been pressing to have the CIC and the neighborhoods bring traffic issues to this group, because I think this group is better informed to make those decisions. The neighborhood and the CIC meetings, I see that more driven by passion and excitement, and so it's a little different. So I appreciate you bringing this.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Great
and,
job.
And those
Great
are
job.
that is probably the best presentation we've seen from a citizen. So you win the award.
I win the award, and so that means we'll get some signage up.
It definitely. No, I don't know how. I drive through that all the time. After a while, you just you're maybe tunnel vision a little bit, but
Well, and I think that is part of, like I said, showed in the beginning. There's so much going on there
Yeah.
that you're looking at
It's
other
distractions,
things.
lots of distractions.
Yeah.
I walk that frequently, the post office, and that just scares me every time I see that crosswalk.
The biggest problem is people coming out of that side street trying to make a left turn. There
Yeah.
isn't enough.
Well, you saw that white car in the one
Yes,
picture.
there isn't much room, and coming out of Wilco Farms, you're busy.
Yeah, you're looking at that median. I don't want to hit it.
So if the left turn coming out of that road
Garden
is a
Meadows.
problem, what happens if you move the crosswalk just to the other side of the intersection?
yeah, unfortunately, there's not a good place for a crosswalk right there. It's really kind of
You have the same problems.
It's an unfortunate.
It'll be
You're
because
closer
you
to
turn
the
your
post
right, so
office,
they'll
which
see
makes it
it
even
better.
worse.
Yeah.
They'll-
I think for a crosswalk, it's in the safest location. It's just how it's marked and how it's eliminated.
He does make a good point that if it was on the other side, if it was on the south side of Garden Meadow, you wouldn't have the left turns.
Yeah.
Up
You'd
across that
have
island.
to do a traffic study to see. I would venture to guess you have more right turns than left
It's the
turns
people
out
make a
there.
left
No,
turn.
but
Yeah,
the
but
right
it's the
turn
left
can
turns-
see, the right turn can see the pedestrian much better.
I
Have
don't
you
think
ever
so.
taken a right
I don't
by
think so.
get and go and almost hit somebody there?
Well,
Because
you have a left
people are
turn.
looking
Yeah.
left,
to turn right.
and
Yeah.
You got that left turn
I-
lane.
I-
Yeah.
I'd rather be where it is.
Okay.
You
Thank
rock,
you.
Amy.
Thanks, Bob.
We can ask Jim Van to come back and tell us whether it's left or right.
right.
Take
I want to hear what else.
I think he went home.
Thanks
A
for
great
your patience,
presentation.
too.
Good job.
Thanks.
Put her on the list
Can I
of
get your
the
contact
future
information
potential
before we leave,
TAC
and I'll keep it
members.
posted
Yeah,
on where we
let's
go.
move on to Public Works
I'll get
Director
it from-
report,
You want?
So we
5C.
can get out of here tonight.
Okay, I'm going to go through these quickly. We tried to limit the number of topics, but they were all good. So we've got 3 pretty good presentations, and so it takes a fair amount of time. Just the Clackamas County Active Transportation Plan. There's a online virtual workshop that is seeking feedback, and it's open through the 23rd, which isn't very long. So we've included some information there on what they're looking for. They're kind of going through the same thing we've gone through, although they're putting a lot more energy into this, their community involvement. And I think that's got a lot to do with the fact that it's part of their transportation system plan as well. So we're well out in front of them on the transportation system plan, and they're kind of working through that. So
I'll just have one comment. I've taken the survey. It takes you about 5-10 minutes. It's not bad at all. There's also an opportunity to click another link, which I have not done yet, and that is to give specific feedback on the routes. There are 10 or 12 corridors, major corridors between cities or destinations, and then there are routes within those corridors, and that's what they're wanting feedback on. So from Oregon City to Malala, I was talking to someone and he said, well, we're suggesting this route. And he says, have you ever pedaled that? And this one side I said, no. He says, you don't want to do that. So I said, well, get on there and give your feedback. So encourage people, especially people that ride, that are active transportation folks, to get on there and give their feedback.
So that's more for your information. The next item is something I think Kathy's bringing up, which is there's email in here from David Knoll and Chris Dunlop. They're our A team when it comes to GIS, and we asked them to take our existing traffic data. Every 2 years we go out and hire a contractor that goes out, does traffic counts throughout the town, throughout Oregon City.
Those are physical counts?
Physical counts.
Great.
That they do. And they don't analyze the data, but they summarize the data in a report. Anything from basic volume, speed studies, those are the two main categories that they include. So now, if you log into our website and you go to the OC Maps, so Maps Online, OC Web Maps is what it's called. Or you can go all the way out, Kathy, or can you go all the way out just to show them how to get there?
From online services?
So you go to Online Services or Maps. I never go in this way.
Neither do I. I always go for online
And
services.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, and why is
I
it?
think it's on the public site as well.
So you go to online services over
Yeah.
here.
And then down.
OC Web Maps.
I'm not sure why it's not showing up here because it.
Yeah, typically, well, so we're not lying to you. We're giving you the truth. Don't go in there.
Well, this is.
So under this is the mapping portal that we can go through as public employees, but as private citizens, that same little logo that shows the 2011 traffic counts, last time I went in there, showed up on the public site. So I'm sure if something's changed here.
Well, I think maybe you have to get into the OC Web Maps. Why don't we go there? And I think it's probably all there.
She did, and it just didn't come up.
I like the idea of a race car on traffic counts.
I think that works.
Yeah, it didn't come up here. We'll follow up on that.
Yeah.
But once you get there, this is what you get.
So as of recently, it was available. So I'm not sure if something changed. So you get a map, and you can click on any one of those links, and it'll give you the eastbound and westbound morning and afternoon traffic count for the latest traffic count that we've done at that location. Gives you the date of the traffic count and
Kathy, just
total daily
just for
trips.
curiosity, would you click on the dot at Fifth Avenue and Lynn at Jackson, down, straight down, there, that one.
So same kind of information, gives you a traffic counter of the location where it's between. I noticed that the group, GIS group, we didn't give them specific direction. I'm not sure if that's exactly where the traffic counter is, whether it was at the intersection or somewhere between the intersections. But
That's close enough.
Again, you can get in there and kind of look at that information anywhere close to what you're, the areas that you're looking for. And so then you can get this tabular data that'll provide you information about speeds and volumes and
That's
eastbound
cool.
or westbound. It's just a lot of information that people generally ask us for, not knowing that it's at now it's going to be at their fingertips. So spread the word on that as well.
Yeah.
How broken down is this data in your files? Is this by hour, half hour, 15-minute, bi-directional, truck,
Which one do you-
truck, car?
You want volume,
It's
speed,
not
or
truck
class?
and car, but it's definitely volume, and they give it in pretty 15-minute
15
increments.
minutes, okay. But they don't have the vehicle breakdown.
Well,
I
it
don't
did
think
say-
so.
It said there was class.
Yeah,
Here's
but I think I've
class.
looked at that, but I don't think it gives you much.
Yep, that's it.
Oh,
Yeah.
2 action,
okay,
3
I was
action.
wrong.
Wow.
But this is
That's
not
cool.
available.
It
Right.
is available to the public.
I just on my smartphone, if you click on maps, it brings up map 2011. You can click on that.
Can you? I'm not sure why this is not
It
showing
wasn't-
up here,
it just
Kathy.
wasn't
Might just have
Working
to
right.
refresh. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
Maybe
get
it's
it.
my login.
It's probably the building. Why is my screen yellow and everybody else's is regular color? I don't know.
Because you
Your
have
computer
mirror
is
seats.
jaundiced.
That's hard on the eyes.
I'm sorry.
That's very cool. Kudos to David.
It's a bad-
Chris.
So much for my
One of the connectors there.
And now we can tie this
It was-
to a
it
traffic
was my
citations.
idea.
I mean, we'd love
Well, I
to.
like it anyway then.
I mean, bottom line is we've got, a lot of
job.
developments end up with traffic reports. It'd be nice to, get more of that data available. So that, the problem is data overload can be problematic too, but, at least you can, educated
there.
public want to go out and look for that, they can get it. Or it's not secret, it's just, and for staff, it'd be nice to have it that easily accessible, because now we have to go look at remember what development that traffic report was associated with, go dig it out and find it. Whereas, if we started mapping some of these things in this kind of format, we could go right to that record and have it.
It would also be helpful to have the filters, as to which interpreting that, like the LOS system or the other system that Metro uses. It'd be interesting to have, to say, okay, this is what our city uses. So you can't look at these raw numbers and draw conclusions. You can draw different conclusions from the different models that you use.
Yeah, but the raw data supplies the information for
Right,
what you're
correct. Yeah,
talking
no,
about.
I'm really good with this, but I'm just saying that.
Yeah. I mean, people have to recognize the data is just data. It's not necessarily analyzed data, and, professionals typically use the data to help draw conclusions, and that's not necessarily what you're going to get from a citizen. But it's not secret either. We're not trying to keep that information from anybody.
Thanks, Kathy.
We're very transparent around
public
here, as you
record.
know.
Yep, we know.
All right, so let's see. Martin, you want to talk about shortly, go over your thoughts on
So you guys asked us to take a look at Central Point Road and Warner Parrott and the intersection issues that have been brought to our attention there. We have several alternatives that we're looking at. With everything we do, trying to maintain compliance with the Transportation Bible here. And I have a couple options. John and I were discussing them earlier today. We'll bring the options back to you guys next month after I get my final pricing back, because as everything else, it's dictated based on what I have allocated. But we have a solution that we think we can do probably within the next 45 days, depending on the quote that I'm hoping to get back in the next few weeks.
Cool. You want to look at Oak Tree Terrace?
Oak Tree Terrace, so we investigated that. There was a couple options again that we presented, and we thought we'd talk to you guys about it and weigh the pros and cons. One of these was the installation of steel bollards, post-driven steel bollards into the asphalt, locked in place. The concern is the road that comes off of or actual Oak Tree Terrace there. That is a privately owned road, and the lots associated with it are still being actively marketed for sale. So trying to put something back there to restrict access onto that road is going to prohibit the property owner from actively marketing and selling the property. We don't want to do that. That's a financial imposition on the property owner, and it leaves the city up for some liability. So some things we thought about, if the concern is vehicles getting back there, tailgating, doing things after hours they shouldn't be, restricting it so that vehicles can't get back there, but pedestrian access could get back there. You could park along the adjacent road and allow the pedestrians to get back there to market the property. So some bollards were an idea. Concern with that, anytime you start cutting into asphalt, you start degrading the quality of the road. Other options, Jersey curb and the geo blocks, or the ecology blocks. You guys have probably heard of those. Also have some repercussions to the asphalt, a little less sightly for the adjacent neighborhood. So we're waiting to see what it would cost to do the steel bollards. The other thing is we have to coordinate with the private property owner and make sure that we're not violating any of his property rights by restricting access to that road, because it is currently a private road. Just because there isn't any buildings back there doesn't mean we have the right to restrict that access until the buildings are constructed.
What about like a gate where they have...
Same issue that I have with...
But they have the key, they can access...
Same thing we do with the bollards. It's just the bollards, little less likelihood of people coming in and cutting the gate and coming back in there and dumping stuff. They're typically what you would see at the headways to a trailhead. You'll see them posted right there along the walkway. They're a slightly wider diameter shaft for the steel pole. They're driven about 1.5 feet, 2 feet deep with a steel sleeve that just pop right out. And then what we would do is when the development comes in, fill in the steel sleeve, throw in a cover of asphalt over it. But again, anytime you start penetrating asphalt, you start degrading the roadway, so we have to take all that into consideration.
I have seen the eco block, which is being...
Yeah, if you go down to the Cove, you'll see we've got tons of eco blocks down there that we use for like our materials area. They're just a little unsightly. You know, what's the blowback that we're going to get from the adjacent neighborhoods if we start putting a Jersey curb or an ecology block out there? They're going to start saying, "Oh, well, this looks like crud. You're really bringing down the quality of the neighborhood." So
I think that a gate probably would be acceptable to the neighbors. I live just about 4 lots from that street, and I wouldn't like to see you go and drilling holes into the pavement there. But then, of course, the gate posts should be able to be off of the pavement, I would think. And the idea of giving a key to the owner and or their representative realtor or whatever would work for them getting in and out of there.
Then we get back into the question of expending public dollars for private benefit. So then we have to start talking, I'm giving a key to a private property owner, to a private road, who's paying for all of these improvements? The gate option.
It's getting back to the basics of why you're putting it up there is the real issue, not those kind of things. And you'd have to also be sure to leave that gate offset a little bit, because I think there's no parking on either side of the street there because of the fire trucks, the width of the street. So if they were showing the property, they'd want to be able to park into that street a little bit. You understand what the picture I'm drawing you? So
a couple of things, and we're putting a lot of time on this. One is I want to make sure we've got consensus from the neighborhood along there, Bob. And I know you talked about willingness to talk to those neighbors along that stretch to make sure we got consensus. Because I think some of them use it for, if they're going to have an event, because there's not on-street parking, they like to utilize that area.
For parking?
For visitor parking.
Call it overflow.
The other thing is, the gate issue that I have is that access has actually got a fair amount of slope to it. So, the gate sits right on one end. It's kind of a custom mounted gate. It's costly. So I think if we were to do something, it would make sense to have a dual access, something that the property owner would have access to the locking bollard system. That's relatively okay. That driveway, as I remember, only has its first lift of asphalt on it, so at some point in time they're going to have to come back and repave it anyway, so maybe there's a solution there. But I think it'd be good to get the neighborhood, from those neighbors that especially live along that constrained area there.
I'll go down and talk to them.
Okay.
But have you guys talked to the property owner? I mean, and
We've made attempts through their realtor. We have not heard anything back from the property owner.
I mean, it's kind of his responsibility to prevent people accessing his property and doing, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that property's been troubled since original development. It's been through a couple of foreclosures, and it's one of those properties that's not, not a property owner, maybe a bank, I don't know. Have you tried?
Yeah, we've tried through their real estate agent and touched base with them twice since last month. We just haven't heard anything back. One thing that we did, if you drive back into the lot, there's actually a couple of the ecology blocks back there on the private road, the driveway. The hope was to try and advise them, you're potentially harboring a public nuisance. We're trying to help you with some solutions and see if they would bring up those ecology blocks up towards the front of the road and take care of the solution on their own. So
Well, that'd be cool if you could do that.
Well, we've been trying, and I'll try again tomorrow and the day after that if we don't hear back from them.
Somebody else says they want to look at buy the property.
Yeah.
Find out who comes up.
Tell them that Guido is calling them. Or Guido.
The tax assessors probably got a direct line to somebody.
We'll try whatever avenues I've got left. So
Number 5.
So Martin and I also talked about this Malala Avenue turning movements, both at Safeway and down near Burgerville and Joanne's Fabric, and a couple things are going on there. Fred Meyer's, which is across from Joanne's, is looking at a change to their. Right now, they've got a fueling station on the Beaver Creek Road side. They're proposing using the old Elmer's site for a new fueling station, so getting rid of the old one, basically moving that location. And when they do that, there's frontage improvements, probably intersection improvements at Gaffney Lane. There's a variety of things that we've yet to kind of establish for them.
That's big news.
Which would probably include a pedestrian crossing, a safe pedestrian crossing there, and medians.
Does that have to go through the land use?
It would have to go through the land use process, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. But we've talked to them before. We know from a couple of years ago they were talking about that, and we thought it was going to be a pretty nice little marriage when we got some grant funding to kind of marry up some of their improvement requirements with some grant funding and have. It's really unfortunate we didn't get that grant. I'll just say that again because I'm whining again, but it really would have been a nice project because we would have taken care of your issues and several others. But so anyway.
Nothing wrong with a couple $100,000, is there?
Yeah. Well, more than that.
Do they have a timeline on that, John? If they were moving the fueling station? Fred Meyer's?
I'm sure they do. I don't know it right now. I could get it, bring it back, but bottom line is there's that work that's going on that is not necessarily aligned with what I'm suggesting here, but it's kind of out there, floating out there. And the reason why I bring it up is because Martin's talked to John Replinger, who's one of our, he's really the main traffic engineer we use for all land use applications. He's familiar with the Fred Meyer work, and he's doing some of the behind-the-scenes work on that. He's also been involved with the Walmart site and their efforts in the past to kind of produce some kind of a proposal for submittal. Now, Walmart's not active right now, but John Replinger's familiar with both of those. He also did the review for the Danielsons when they did their upgrades. So our thoughts are, if we're going to, that boulevard's been in that state for many, many, many years with the same driveway configurations that it has now. And some of the proposal, some of what you're proposing, Henry, with regard to some kind of a median barrier would have direct impacts on the businesses. So trying to get a better understanding of that. And we don't want to do it on our own. We'd like to have a professional opinion there on how
definitely
to make that
needs some in-depth study. And just for the record, I was driving by a week ago today and saw a T-bone at that intersection that took two cars out. And
which one?
The one out of Walgreens. Roughly around noon Tuesday last.
Hilltop and Molalla.
Yeah.
So we haven't dropped this. I think it's going to take us some energy, though, to get an answer that if we're going to put something in there, well, first of all, what should it be? And then, how does that impact the businesses? It's kind of like the Dutch Brothers. I think we're going through the due diligence period, and at some point in time, want to make sure we've got the right to manage our right of way. Don't get me wrong,
Right,
but
right.
but I'd like to do that in a way that hopefully could be more of a win-win than just kind of throwing out a barrier that's going to.
Last thing I think the city needs is to antagonize property owners that's been supportive of us in the past.
And Sean, I don't know if you were aware, probably so, that the Walmart property is on the market. Walmart is willing now to sell that property.
I've heard rumor of that,
Yeah,
but I
it's-
haven't.
It's been on the market for about 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
New season.
We could hope.
Anything else on those? Mine are pretty good.
No, that's it.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for looking into that.
I think the next item is
City
Bob
Com-
LaSalle. Bob, this is a request you had to ask the committee to look harder at commission goals now that they've been through their retreat. They didn't make many drastic changes or any real changes to the goals. Haven't added anything new, and we're on track for several of the city commission goals. So I wasn't sure if you wanted to have that discussion tonight, but we added it in as committed to.
I just had a couple of questions on that. On the 2014 TAC goals, on page 2 at the bottom,
That's the
That's
annual
not-
report.
Yeah, the city commission goals is the item with the green headings on them. So there's goal 1 through 5. That's the item we're talking about
oh,
right now.
I'm
Bob.
past that.
The TAC goals, just so you know, that's something that's coming up. I think, Kathy, this is, you cut and pasted from last year's, and we're just, well, we can talk about that when we get to that item, I guess. But for now,
Or maybe the issues can be combined.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah, we can combine them.
Okay. So then we're on TAC annual report.
Has this been filed to the city?
What?
This says a date of February 13th on it.
yeah, I think we're confusing things here. So
Well, she just talked about combining them, so I was
Yeah,
ready to
yeah.
combining them.
Right. So the goals, the city commission goals, goals 1 through 5, are provided for you, and those are a little different. What Kathy's provided in the next section, which is our annual report draft, and we haven't discussed this item at all.
Thank you.
But would still do, and for the most part, I think in the past, Kathy's put that together based on meeting minutes from the past and her recollection of kind of things that we covered, and has taken a stab at kind of putting that into order. And you folks need to start looking at that, seeing if we've missed anything, seeing if we want to edit that. At some point, Steve, you're going to be asked to get in front of the city commission and present our,
Okay.
you know, or whoever you know. I suppose you can delegate that. You don't have to do that. So, but like every other committee, we need to do an annual report for the city commission. So this is draft, and just kind of first time you've seen it, and
A couple of pages later, you included 2012. Was that just for example?
That's for just
Sample.
information,
Okay.
so you know what it looked like last year.
So this is what we have accomplished.
Good job. Good job putting this together.
Oh.
Kathy does
Yeah.
an outstanding job with this stuff.
Yeah.
I had a quick question then, Kathy, on page 3. Make sure I get the right one.
Of the 2014 city commission goals, I think what I did was I truly just copied and pasted from the previous year. And that was all provided by Bob LaSalle to begin with.
Let's blame it on Bob.
No, not blame.
I have a
Credit.
I have a comment then about that. John, are you finished?
No, so on
So I'll wait.
page 3 of the draft, the February 13th draft, page 3, about 2/3 of the way down, you have critical facilities needs.
I had that noted too.
And so are we listing South End and Beaver Creek and Willamette Falls? Because they were listed in the commission goals under their first priority there. No, I'll take that back. Under goal 3, they were listed, and they seem to have traffic implications, so I was just wondering.
Well, that's good. Let me build on that. Because I had, when they were talking about facility needs, I was thinking about the critical facility needs that we have for the city, and I think that's, at the goal-setting session, that's what their intent was, is the public works, the new public work facility, the new police department, and the new library. And all of those are going to have traffic impacts as well.
Following it?
I'll add whatever you want added.
And this is just a starting point for us to
Right.
Yeah.
I
work
filled
from.
in some of the blanks and,
Right, so I guess I'm just offering, under number 1 and number 3 on page 3, you have some subheadings, but number 2, critical facilities, you do not. And it seems to me we could just list them since they were listed, that's all.
okay, so you want listed there
From from
from the goals.
goal number 3, the first 3 items, South End Concept Plan, Beaver Creek, and Willamette Falls site, just list them under 2 under the post thing, because they may get to us this year, they may not, but they'll have traffic implications.
And I suggested that in addition to that, the public works new site, the police department, and the library are also going to have traffic implications.
Probably, I just didn't see them quite that way, but that's okay.
Well, when I'm thinking, for example, Public Works, when they put in their site, we're going to have to be concerned with the trucks, the equipment moving in and out, and that type of vehicular access to wherever that site is going to be. We're going to need to be involved in that.
So if we go back to the sheet that is about city commission goals, the green, that have the little green headings on them, maybe can we work through all those pages? There's not that many. There's 2, or 2.5, and just kind of put a check by everything you think that the TAC can be helpful with.
Yeah, okay, that's kind of what I was doing. So under goal number 1, I put a check by all 4 of them.
Okay.
As having implications for our advisory board to take a look at. So then under number 3, goal number 3,
What about 2?
well, I'm just giving mine and we can jump in after that. I don't care. Do it any way you want it. So anyway, number 3, I had the first 3 and then the sign code. The only other one I had was the third one under goal number 5 on right of way. Those are the ones I thought related to, or potentially related to, our advisory committee. There may be others, that's just what I had marked.
I'm sorry, which one under 5?
Third one.
Yeah, third, effective
Okay.
management of right of way.
So let's hear from the rest of you, and then maybe I can push back on something. One that I heard. Is there?
Well, I would say under goal 2, the only ones that, from just a brief look at, that we would not be interested in is probably the Ermitage House.
Erminger House, yeah.
Erminger, yeah. The rest of them seem to have some sort of access quality to them, or trip generation, or something of that ilk.
I think the end of the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center isn't changing much. It's more like putting together a program to keep it viable.
Not that. I can see somebody saying something like, "Well, let's move the concert in the parks to the library, to the end of the Oregon Trail."
They are.
And I know they are. And where are people going to park, and how are they going to get in and out? And is the hot rod show going to show up? And if so, what does that do to
traffic on Washington Street.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, I don't see a police station. I don't see how. I mean, what? I mean, we're talking here financing. Would we really? What value do we bring that topic?
Well, for example, the current police station has a semi-dedicated street. I don't know how else to declare it.
But they're only scoping out to look at the
Financing.
financial implications. They don't have a site located. They don't have anything out, any tangible assets to really look at for this upcoming goal period.
Yeah, we wouldn't have anything to do with that until they get into.
It's public opinion
plan
and the
out where it's gonna
possibility
be.
and likelihood of public acceptance of a bond measure.
If you're discussing acquisition, then I think that's where, there may be issues of parking and/or access.
But even acquisition on any of these, this body won't hear about it until
Premature.
it's done.
Yeah, premature.
But a land use issue, the development of a site, we might. Although this body doesn't necessarily look at all the land use issues that come through City Hall.
No, but some of them they should look at because there is some implications. I'm thinking the police station, the implication is I'm going to have traffic in and out of it at all times. I'm going to have some public access. I'm going to have some access that I probably don't want noted by anything or anyone. So how would all that be accomplished on any site in the city, anywhere?
Well, yeah, this decision-making body isn't necessarily in that approval loop for land use decisions. The planning
understand
commission
that.
is, and the neighborhoods are. And I don't think we're saying we want to be in the loop on every land use decision. And then if
Absolutely
we're not
not.
involved in any land use decision, I'm not sure how we make the determinations which ones you are. So
Maybe that's what we should be looking at.
Well, we need to do something like you're doing with the Dutch brothers. We got to know what traffic pattern is going to hurt. We need to look at that before they would have built that building.
yeah, but you're not in that. This group isn't in that legislative
Okay.
approval path,
Right.
and
We're trying to fix it. Now,
we would see agendas much longer, I think, if we were looking at all.
Well, I think that the tax should be involved in that in the initial planning process, because one of our written goals, is to advise, among others, the planning commission. And so, before something gets to the planning commission, we should probably address it if it's something like Dutch Brothers, for example, that could cause traffic problems, so we can give advice to the planning commission or the city commission or whoever it may be.
Mr. Chairman, normally if it's going to the planning commission and it's a major development that's going to have some traffic implications, there's a traffic analysis done by a specialist that staff and that other body look at.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we want to get into each one of those. There may be exceptional type things that we can spot along the way. I mean, cities locate police departments all the time, and they have, what are they called, the Sally ports, where you put the vehicles in and out when so it seems to me that there should be handled at that level for most of these incidents. Maybe there's some exception that comes out of this.
But then again, what's the difference between a Cove project and I don't know, public works facility? I mean, the Oregon Trail Center. I mean, they're both generating.
Well, I think the Cove
traffic.
project is going to have how many housing units and may have some new street configurations. I don't know.
Well, I mean, even the Cove project will go through a land use process that doesn't necessarily include the TAC. It has, it goes to the neighborhoods. I think they're required to go to the neighborhoods and do a presentation at the neighborhood level, and they have to sit before the planning commission. but it doesn't necessarily come before the TAC. That's not a step in that land use approval process.
I think where we come in really is if and when citizens have issues, rather than go directly to planning or directly to the city commission, they're able to come here and allow us to sort that through with them before making a recommendation.
Yeah, that's not, and I agree with that. And it's not to say that, the bigger projects like the Cove or the,
South End concept.
we don't bring those up, but it's just the determination of which particular project should come before, unless they either all come before this body, and that would take a change to the land use process. And I don't think you're asking for that, or we kind of pick and choose those as we feel as a consensus among the body that we want to look at that. If it's a Walmart, for instance, that's coming into town, my guess is this group's going to have a sense of that coming down the pike, and they might want to hear more about that project. But
in the case of South End Concept, we had a citizen who was raising issues about that from a traffic standpoint, and we had the opportunity to look at that and hear testimony and then make a recommendation. And I thought that was a valid use of our time and energy and expertise.
Part of it's efficiency of the process, just to keep, the developer on task with having to do presentations, but not to, if there's an interest in a particular plan or development, then it's attending that neighborhood meeting or attending the planning commission meeting, having somebody, I can't remember if this group doesn't really have a land use chair that sits on this. So,
well, my idea last year when I put this together, I'll take an example of the Cove project, assign a TAC member to keep abreast of transportation issues as the Cove is designed, planned, ask appropriate questions, and have TAC make recommendations. My thought there was to have one member of the TAC to attend any meetings that we would be made aware of in regard to the Cove, and then if that member foresaw any problems coming up, he could bring them to the TAC, and at that time we could decide whether we should or should not be involved in it. And I had the same idea with the Rossman landfill. That's kind of where I was going last year with that.
yeah, and that's probably why we don't have anything under item 2, address critical facility needs, is because we didn't feel so strongly. Obviously, if we had a public works site and we were planning it, in the right location, it might make sense for you guys to get a little
premature.
more involved in that. Yeah, but it's open for debate. I just think we need to be realistic in the goals that we actually take on, because otherwise we're going to it's going to be like our agendas. We got too much on our agenda, and it's 8:30, and
Yeah.
Some of us have to go home.
We'd have to have 2 meetings a month.
Some people want to watch House of Cards or something like that. Any more on the goals?
I'm not sure where to go with them, other than I think what I hadn't, because I hadn't looked at this, but it's clear that what was included, I thought what was listed here was just the exact same kind of milestones that the city commission had, but I see that they're different. So for the Cove project, you were more specific last year about what you really wanted to do there, and I think that's kind of what we need on, if we want to change that, even though the city commission goals haven't changed, maybe this committee's desire as to how to serve those goals has changed a little bit. And, so how do we get there? Do we want to talk through more of that? It's not like it's a drop-dead deadline on these things.
I'd rather go forward. Push it forward to the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure. Agreed.
Okay. But in the meantime, you guys will think a little bit more about that, right? We'll just add it to the agenda next meeting.
Should I make the changes that you requested?
Well, no, they're just up there for discussion. They'll be in the minutes, so.
Pencil them in.
No, I'm shortening my minutes.
Okay.
They're going to be seconds.
Well, I just think that, John, I think a lot of what you suggested is good, but I think we need to kind of think about for the Oregon City Marketplace project, Rossman's, I guess the city's just saying, hey, we're going to continue to work with this property. I mean, the likelihood of a goal could be if something comes up on that project that
Well, and
support, then we would.
Last year, we had, or a couple of years ago, we had asked to be copied to get the communication going between planning and city commission and other, so that we're aware of, we get those emails and we're able to look through the agenda and say, oh, well, here's it. They're talking about the Cove today or in a few days, and they're going to be talking specifically about traffic or streets. Well, maybe we ought to be at that meeting. And, so that was the intent of that. I do like your idea of, I've talked about that too, about everybody kind of taking an area that they were,
Yeah, I would like to have us have a volunteer for each one of those projects, kind of keep us informed of them when we get to that point.
So I think, trying to simplify this, looking at page 3, the heading at the top, 2014 City Commission goals. So it's just that section there, 1 through 5, with the items that were carried over from previous year that we're really looking at as setting this group's goals to correspond to the cities. So I don't think we have to get confused with all the other stuff. It's what do we want to put in that page.
Yeah. Yeah, so really, unless there's some major kind of just reconsideration of those, or maybe even just one item that we say we do see that coming up based on what we know now. The library, for instance, maybe that.
But for example, on the south end, which I guess was under enhancements and livabilities, we actually did assign someone to go to south end meetings. So I'm just saying that would have been treated then like the Cove project was proposed to be treated. So it's a way to think about it. So you kind of collapse it and get some final decisions next time.
Okay. So what you're proposing is assigning a point person within the committee to shepherd some of these projects and keep the rest of the group abreast?
If we can get that far, yes.
Okay, I think that's something that amongst yourselves, figure out who'd like to take interest in a few of these projects. We can assign a point person for each of these at the next meeting, and then we can include it in the minutes. And some of these are moving forward. Some of these, like I said, they're conceptual in level, and we can kind of try and make some connections with whoever the point person is and who within the city staff is the person who's kind of shepherding that, and make those connections for you. So I think we have a direction on that then?
Yep.
On accomplishments, and I'm going to get a little bit beyond that.
I'm sorry?
On accomplishments in 2013, we approved a cutting of a trench on pavement, how to pave it back over standards. I don't see it on there, so. I don't know.
Pavement cut standards?
Yes.
Pavement standards, okay. For that.
I'm not sure if that was 2013 or 12.
No, I thought it was
I thought it was 13.
I think it was last year. Last year was my first year, and it was during that time.
If we had more time, we'd love to tell you guys how we stuck to our guns and forced PGE to comply with the new cut standards and really saved a good section of road.
Reject.
That's cool.
Yeah. What's so funny?
Melody is calling me. There's problems in Milwaukee, I know.
It's probably TriMet. I mean, they went to Milwaukee. I'm joking.
It is.
Speaking of TriMet, how about that crash they had on 213?
Yeah, I don't.
Bus up on the bank there. I
never heard how that happened. But.
I passed in front of that just after it happened.
Yeah, we went through there right after it too.
No ice or snow, so no excuse.
I would like to thank the Public Works people for their good work on the streets during this last bit of snow and ice and whatnot. They did a really good job of keeping the main roads passable.
For the operations staff, and I think I speak for engineering, we appreciate that, and thank you for.
And the plow went by my house, but not the other streets.
John and I were talking, and probably an item we'll bring to you next month, depending on how lively the agenda is. One of the things that we implemented for this recent event, something we started working on back end of last fall, still in draft format, but we did utilize it during the event last week, is a winter operations plan that dictates how and what we do and where we do things. It was still in draft form, but during the event, we implemented it. We, as most of you know, my background is public works and emergency management, and we went into full emergency management mode with incident action plans and specified duties and responsibilities for all the parties. And what we'd like to do is probably may still be in draft format, but we'll give you guys a copy of the inclement weather plan that we have prepared. It's a stimulating read if you're suffering from insomnia. And then we can probably throw in a couple of the incident action plans. We just actually had our after action report today, where all the parties sat down and we said what was good, what was bad, where can we improve.
Any lessons learned? Or?
Several. You can wait for the report. Yeah. I'm still blistering from the meeting this afternoon.
What works in Florida doesn't necessarily work in Oregon.
I'll give you one comment from our meeting this afternoon. Everybody was. I think the consensus is we did quite well. It was not the worst event we had ever seen. Everyone in the meeting kept saying, well, it wasn't the worst event we've ever seen, to which I replied, hold on. It may not have been the worst snow event the rest of you have ever seen. For me,
For Floridian.
this was, the apocalypse.
But Martin, this was about half worst I've seen in 20 years here.
Yeah, the Weather Service, we have a very good relationship with the National Weather Service. They kept us abreast. We were developing a daily incident action plan and briefing all of the city management, and from there the electeds. And I think the one comment that we've gotten universally is good communications. And it's a fine line between over communication and keeping everybody up to breast enough. So.
Well, I'll just tell you one thing. So we're getting close to the end of the meeting here. When I was a kid, we had twice that much snow, and I had to walk through it to school uphill both ways.
When I was a kid, they didn't close the schools down until there was 4 inches of snow on the road, and the bus drivers had to put their own chains on.
I blame the lawyers.
You had schools?
Yeah. You know what? One thing that I think gets missed in all this. We throw a lot of resources at these snow events just to try to get people from point A to point B. This snow event, there's no reason why every driver in town with chains could not have maneuvered through this event without any of our help. But the problem areas that we had were those people on places like Washington and 7th and 9th and all the other steep streets that we have, and they're not being prepared to drive in snow and ice. Chains are not that expensive, people, and they work. So
traction tires are nice too.
We need to keep that people thinking that we've been having these events pretty regularly now, right? And so it seems like people should be ready for snow and ice.
In 09, you put signs up on 7th Street, chains are required. Go down from
We've talked
Taylor
about
down.
that.
Yep.
Right, so I think the level of service is what is unknown. So, as you go through this process, define the level of service you're providing so citizens know that, say, for example, you'll clear arterials and collectors, but not residential streets.
And
That's the public policy. If that's it, get it out there so people understand that, and they don't have the expectation that, maybe the next day they're going to come and plow it, so they get frustrated.
John, you're absolutely right. And within the winter, our winter action plan, we define all of those.
Great.
There is a list. You may not have noticed this, but 5:30 on Thursday, when the snow first started, we have a list of priority road closures. All of those roads were closed by 5:30 because we knew what was coming. We didn't wait to see what the conditions got to. We decided and we made the decision then.
We put that information on our homepage.
Yep. Publicly available. And the intent is, John and I talked about this, is get that plan vetted through all the appropriate groups, We'll bring it to you guys for comments and suggestions, and then we're putting it on the Public Works webpage.
Do you use like flash alert? That was something that
Yes, the city.
No. We didn't really send to all the populace. I think there was some provision of flash alert internally, but not
Yeah, flash
citywide.
alert was sent out because City Hall was
I got the city hall was closed.
closed. Yeah, that's the extent of what they used.
No, Martin, that's great that you're doing that. So it'll be fun to see that when it comes
Yep.
around.
And you'll know where the road closures are. You'll know we have a priority ranking system for roads, so you'll know what are priority 1, priority 2, priority 3s, and you will also know what we don't do.
Yeah, great.
So when I've got one staff person answering phones that are ringing constantly, it's going to be most of the calls will get a message that say, please refer to the city's webpage for information regarding road plowing.
Great.
It's just the most expeditious route. And it's, unfortunately, you guys said it earlier, it's transparency. We're letting people know this is the business that we do and this is how we do it. If you have a concern, you can bring it to your elected officials, but this is the plan that we're taking.
Are you in budget for this year's snow? And
We were
And
able to
de-icing?
handle everything for the snow event without exceeding any of our budgetary items.
Good.
So.
Great job. I mean, I was coming back from Portland and taking Holcomb because I used Foresight and that was already closed, and I used the other route, and your snow plows are already trying to get Holcomb operational. So
Yeah, we ran 24 operations from Thursday at 4:30. We ended 24-hour ops at midnight Sunday evening.
Good job. Steve. Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I didn't know if everybody had copies of those. Those just came out.
Okay.
And I thought if they'd like to see them, this is a group that kind of likes maps, I would think.
Sure.
Oh, I've got a whole bunch of them.
If you've got them, that's fine, yeah. It's
Okay.
Oh, I could use this.
Any more discussion on the TAC annual report?
Oh,
Let's get this moving.
I thought we were into announcements.
Staff report? You kind of did it. Annual report draft. Man, there's a lot of it. It's all in a memo. Future agenda? Well, I guess there was Ocean sidewalk
Information.
that you brought up. Who brought it up?
I did, and I thank them for being on it and getting it taken care of.
Okay, future agenda items?
I think I have it. Well, that was already established,
Sure.
city goals.
Thursday the 20th.
Any other concerns? Want to go home?